Okay, all of you will remember me, or do I need an introduction again? Some of you are not even giving any explanation. Somewhere I've seen her. Where have I seen her? Looks like something she used to teach us. Right, so now we have forgotten. All SCS standards in auditing, you remember? ಇಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. You remember or no? No answers. Yes or no, na Ilfa, actually. Do you remember anything related to standards in auditing? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
We'll start. Let's start a revision with essays. Who will tell me all the essays? Prema. Okay. Other than Prema? Essays ಅಪ್ಪ 200 ಇಂದ 700 ವರೆಗೂ ಒಂದು essays ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಾರ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನಾನು? Okay, done. Who will tell me? Yeah, someone. Nobody? How do we revise? How? Someone at least. Chetan, Vikas, Rishi, Suresh, Sarayushri, Aradhana. Aradhana was there in my class. I don't remember.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, nice. Anybody, one person, essays. Okay, Prema, try now. What to do?
Essay 200, the overall objectives of the independent auditor and conduct of an audit in accordance with standards in auditing.
Suma raised a hand. Okay, I can't see the hands. That's a problem. Okay, other than Suma, no one else has raised a hand. Okay.
Essay 210, agreeing the terms of audit engagement. Essay 220, quality control in an audit of financial statements. 230, audit documentation. 250, consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. 299, responsibilities of joint auditors. 300, planning in an audit of financial statements. 315, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. 320, materiality in planning and performance of the audit. Auditors' responses to assess risks is 330. And 450 is evaluation of the misstatements identified during the audit. 500 is audit evidence. 501 is audit evidence specific consideration of selected items. 510 is initial audit engagements, opening balances. 520 is analytical procedures. 530 is audit sampling. 540 is auditing accounting estimates, including fair value accounting estimates and related disclosures. 550 is related parties. 560 is subsequent events. 570 is going concern. 580 is written representation. 600 is using the work of another auditor. 620 is using the work of auditor's expert. 610 is using the work of internal auditor. 700 is forming an opinion and reporting on the financial statements. 701 is communication of key audit matters in the independent auditor's report. 705 is modifications to the opinions which are expressed in the independent auditor's report. 706 is emphasis of matter paragraph, other matter paragraph in the independent auditor's report. 710 is comparative information, corresponding figures and comparative financial statements.
Excellent. Very good. Suma, you want to try again?
Okay, ma'am. Essay 200, overall objectives of an auditor and conduct of an audit in accordance with the auditing standards. Essay 210, agreeing to the terms of an audit engagement. Essay 220, quality control in an audit of financial statement. Essay 230, audit documentation. Essay 240, an auditor's responsibilities relating to an audit of financial statements. Essay 250, communication to those charged with governance. Essay 260, consideration. Essay 250, considerations of laws and regulations relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements.
Laws and regulation, considerations related to laws and regulations in an audit of financial
statements. Right. Essay 260, communication to those charged with governance. Essay 265, communication of internal deficiencies to those charged with governance and management. Essay 299, joint audit. 300, planning and audit of financial statements. Essay 315, identifying and assessing the risk of financial risk of material misstatement in the through understanding the entity and its environment. Essay 320, materiality in planning and audit of financial statements. 330, auditors' responses to related risks, related audit risks, and Essay 402, audit considerations to an entity using a service organization. Essay 450, evaluation of misstatements identified during the audit. Essay 500, audit evidence. Essay 501, audit evidence, specific consideration for selected items. Essay 505, external confirmation. 510, initial audit engagements, opening balances. 520, analytical procedure. 530, audit sampling. 540, auditing accounting estimates, including fair value accounting estimates and related disclosures. 550, related parties. 560, subsequent events. 570, going concern. 580, written representation. 600, using the work of another auditor. 610, using the work of internal auditor. 620, using the work of auditor's expert. 700, forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. 701, communicating key audit matters in an independent auditor's report. 705, modifications to the opinion in the independent auditor's report. 706, emphasis of meta paragraphs and other meta paragraphs in an independent auditor's report. 710, comparative information, corresponding figures and comparative financial statements. 720, the auditor's responsibilities relating to other information.
Okay. Yeah. This is good. Okay, fine. You have to remember exam the December exam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you need to remember essays, you need to remember definitions, study material 3 times ಓದಿರಬೇಕು. At least revision ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು, short notes ಇರಬೇಕು. I don't know, MCQs, are you reading every day? MCQs every day, we said you have to read at least 10 to 20 MCQs every day. You should read for 30 marks. This is the must and stood actually. Now is not the time to looking back, I'm telling you. Now it's a time to action. Okay, what I'm going to do is share the screen. Maybe 1.5 to 2 hours is what I'm going to revise the entire auditing for you. Until 9 o'clock, I'm planning to do a quick revision for you, right? All of us are good?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So
Yes.
see, this is what is must to read. Mock test papers are must to solve. I hope you're solving. You have to solve mock test papers. Question papers are must to read. Correct? This MCQ and case scenario booklet is must to read. Study material need notes ottidro, caps notes ottidro. I always prefer study material is good, but if you're reading the caps notes as well, must to read is RTP, MTP, question paper, and the MCQ case booklet. We've already solved the case booklet in the class. Did we do that?
Yes, ma'am.
We've done MCQs, most of the MCQs from the booklet we have solved. Right, some of the case studies from the booklet we have solved. So you have to again revise the entire booklet thoroughly. So what I'll now do is to go for a quick revision material. This is what I'm going to walk through and give you a revision for maybe next 2 hours or so on the entire auditing material. Are we good?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a very good revision material actually. You don't need to, this has everything related to auditing at one go. 30 pages are there. 30 pages and the entire revision of auditing is covered. You need to just print this material with you, right? Keep it handy with you so that it's easy for you to remember, make some notes, make some chart, right? Underline, highlight. You can do all of it using this material. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So what is that we have in this? The first chapter is nature, objective, and scope of audit. So we understood that auditing is derived from the word called audier, which means to hear. The definition of an auditing is independent examination of financial information of an entity whether profit-oriented or not, irrespective of legal size or form, when such an examination is conducted with a view to express the opinion thereon. That's what we discussed in the auditing definition. Therefore, what is the overall objective of an auditor? The overall objective of an auditor is basically to obtain reasonable assurance on financial statements. What is reasonable assurance? That the financial statements are free from material misstatements. There is a sufficient appropriate audit evidence available for us to prove that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. That is called as reasonable assurance. Right? Now, to ensure that the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, to report on the financial statements, to communicate as required by SCS is the objective of the audit. What is the advantages of the audit? It safeguards the interest of the persons. Correct? It acts as a moral check on employees. It helps in settling liabilities and taxes because audited financial statements are based for or the taxes or disputes or anything. When there's a number, they'll take it from the audited financial statements. It's useful for settling the trade disputes. It helps in the detection of wastages and losses. The government may require audited and certified statements for a lot of things. That is why auditing is important. What is the scope of an audit? Scope of an audit is forming the opinion, right? I can actually form the opinion by mutual discussion. I will agree what needs to be audited by mutual discussion, point number 1. Or I may also agree, point number 2, with the statute, whatever is given under section 143. With that, what is that I can audit? I agree under 143. Or I can also agree, basis I say I counsel sometimes whatever comes my way. That is the scope of an audit. But my scope is to form an opinion, issue the opinion which could be either unmodified or modified. Modified could be of 3 types: qualified opinion,
Adverse and disclaimer.
Qualified opinion, adverse opinion, or disclaimer of opinion. That's how we look at it. And then we went to inherent limitations of an audit. What are the inherent limitations of an audit? Inherent limitations is the nature of the financial reporting itself is a limitation. How do I prepare financial statements? Right? What involves the judgment? That itself is a limitation. And nature of audit procedures is also a limitation. Right? The nature of audit procedures sometimes are driven by the timing, extent, and nature of the work. 10. Thereby, auditors sometimes gets very less time to roll out larger things. Hence, that itself can become a
limitation.
That itself can become a limitation on the entire audit, right? That's what we discussed. Timelines of financial reporting and the balance sheet. That is because everything is 31st March and I get an audit. I get to do an audit only after 31st March. Timelines also becomes an inherent limitation for an auditor. Correct? So this is what we discussed, and then we spent to aspects to be covered in audit. Right? What are the aspects? Remember the diagram of the study material that we spoke in the aspects to be covered in the audit. We spoke about examination of the accounting systems and internal controls. What are internal controls? We did a definition, if you remember. Internal control is a process designed, implemented, and maintained by
management,
those charged with the governance and other personnel in order to achieve the reasonable assurance on the following 4 objectives. Point number 1, reliable financial reporting. Point number 2,
safeguarding of assets.
Point number 3,
efficiency and effectiveness.
Very good, Maprema. Effectiveness and efficiency of controls. And point number 4,
compliance of laws and regulations.
Compliance to laws and regulations. That is about internal control. Verification of the authenticity and validity of the transactions. Comparison of the items of financial statements with the underlying records. Verification of the title, existence, and value of the assets, which is the assertions, right? Verification of the assertions. Then verification of the liabilities. Then checking the results shown by the profit and loss account. Reporting to the appropriate person or a body, and an examination of the internal control. These are all the aspects of the audit that we do it. In simple words, internal control, verification, comparison, assertion, checking, posting, reconciliations, physical verification, physical count. Different techniques are adopted by auditor to audit the financial statements. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is the relationship of auditing with other disciplines we spoke about? Auditing has got a relationship with many other disciplines, right? For example, accounting is the history of the audit. Accounting is a base for the audit. Accounting, we account, audit, we do a post-mortem. We check whether what is accounted is correct or not. Law is important because 250. I say 250 tells me consideration of laws and regulations. Every audit when I do, laws and regulations are must for me to look at it, because the numbers that is derived from the financial statements are based on the laws and regulations. Example, sales. If I have to look at sales, I need to know GST law, right? Similarly, if I have to look at salary, I need to know PF provisions, gratuity provisions, ESI provisions. These are must for me to know. Hence, I need to look at all of this. Economics is must for me, right? Economics is a subject which tells me how the economy is moving, must for me to know. Behavioral science is must for me to know. Statistics and mathematics is important because auditing is largely to do with stats and maths, right? So statistics and mathematics is base for the auditing. Then data processing. Data processing, because audit involves huge amount of a data. Data processing is also very important to me. And then production, correct? Financial management. These are all the subjects which are interconnected to auditing. Auditing cannot be looked independently. You can learn auditing only when you know all the other disciplines of profession. Okay? This is what we discussed. How each of this is connected is what we discussed in our classes, right? Auditing standards, very important we discussed. Auditing standards are defined in a codified manner. Codification, we call it as. What does codification means? Codification is bucketing, right? You bifurcated into 200 series, 300 series, 500 series, 600 series, and 700 series. All the matters related to general responsibilities of an auditor lies in 200 series. All the matters related to audit planning is in internal control, is in 300 series. Matters related to evidence is in 500 series. Matters related to using the work of others is in 600 series. Matters related to audit reporting and conclusion is in 700 series. So we spoke about these are all the different matters in the different series that we'll have to look at it. Yes? Basis that auditing is divided into historical information audit, non-historical. Historical may we've got audit, review, assurance standards. Non-historical, we've got related services. In audit, review, and assurance standards, we call it as SAE, standards on auditing. SRE, standards on review engagements. SAE, standards on assurance engagement. Standards on auditing, standards on review engagement, standards on assurance engagement. That's how we've divided the standards of auditing into. Therefore, you find SQE is standards on quality control is a base for everything, which has SCAs. Then we've got SREs, we've got SAEs, and then we've got SRS, driven by standards on auditing, which are bifurcated into 100 to 899 series. Num syllabus alli bari 200 to 799 series. So there are few more essays are not part of our syllabus. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So with that, we went to what are the elements of the quality control. Essay 220. 220 speaks about what is the elements of a quality control. 220 madadvi. SDRC anta madadvi. Auditor should supervise, direct, review, and do a consultation. In the auditing standard 220, we did. At the time of acceptance of an engagement, he should ensure the quality. At the time of performance of an engagement, he should ensure the quality. At the time of conclusion of an engagement, he should ensure the quality. Quality has to be ensured at all the three levels that we spoke about. Therefore, right, monitoring, engagement performance, human resources, acceptance, ethical requirement, leadership responsibilities are all important for me to do elements of quality control. Correct? So these are all the basic principles governing an audit. What is the basic principles governing an audit? Independence. Must for an auditor to look at independence requirement. Point number 2, you need to maintain the confidentiality, ethical requirement to ensure the confidentiality of the information that comes to you. You can break the confidentiality only when the client asks you to do so. Client says, sir, paragilai document kodi aurke, because it's fine for us. We don't have this, you give it, then it's fine. I'm giving it because client told me to do so. Or I'm giving it because there is a legal requirement for me to do so. Right? The law tells me that you need to do so, hence I'm doing that, right? Either there is a legal requirement or there is a requirement to communicate to communicate, to give to other person because a client said, only then I can ensure that the confidentiality can be overpassed. Otherwise, confidentiality is the must and should requirement. I need to work with people. Auditing is a lot to do with the people, understanding people, driving people. That is very important in auditing, right? So this is what we discussed. Then ethical requirements relating to audit: objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, professional competence, professional behavior. These are all the ethical requirements relating to the audit. Are we clear?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And we spoke about the firm should establish policies and procedures designed to address the following personal issues, right? Basically, recruitment, competence, compensation. Yet you have to look at all of these matters. See, when it comes to ethical requirements, objectivity, integrity, being honest, professional competence, knowing the things, confidentiality, professional behavior is important. When it comes to people, are you getting the right people? Is article students are doing the right study? Are they competent to do the work? What is their performance on the job? What is a career that they're looking at in the future? All of that you need to keep in mind when it comes to people who are working below you. Otherwise, you will not be able to drive the quality audit. Right? That's what is all of this about. Then we went to what is monitoring, it's fine. Then we went to second chapter, which was audit strategy, planning and program. Audit strategy planning was part of our second chapter. First chapter is clear. It's all about definition of auditing, interconnection of auditing with other disciplines, advantages of auditing, what are essays, what are the total description of essays, what does essay comprises of, what are the ethical requirements, what are inherent limitations of an audit, what is scope of an audit, is all covered in our chapter 1. What is now our chapter 2? It covers strategy and planning. Strategy is basically what to do. Planning is how to do. Working is actually doing, right? Strategy is planning what to do. Correct? Planning, I mean, the working on the ground is nothing but how to do that. How do I do it? And actually, when I'm doing it or not becomes my ongoing audit evidence collection that I do in the course of an audit. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you do when you have to plan? When you're establishing the overall strategy, the auditor shall first identify what is the scope of work for you. How many subsidiaries are you auditing? How many branches are you auditing? What are you exactly auditing? First, get the scope of the work clear for you. Once you get the scope of the work, then understand the objective of the engagement. What is it you're doing? Reporting. What is the report are you giving? Correct? What kind of reporting is expected? Is it as per the law? Or is it as per the, is it a company? Is this something which is driven by 143 or is it driven by the agreement? Understand what is the objective of this entire engagement. Then consider the significant factors in directing the engagement's team's efforts. What are the factors that drives the team efforts? Consider that. Consider the results of preliminary engagement activities. What are all the initial engagement activities? Knowing the client, checking the background verification of the client. Is a client is somebody who is safe to take up? You'll have to look at all of those preliminary activities of the engagement. Then ascertain the nature, timing, and extent of resources required for engagement. Who are the people who should do it? Ascertain. This is all part of the strategy that we perform. Right? Planning is not a discrete phase of an audit, but rather a continual and iterative process that often begins shortly after or in connection with the completion of the previous audit and continues until the completion of the current audit engagement. It is just not one discrete, like one identified, isolated phase. I'll have to do this throughout my audit. I'll plan substantially at the beginning, but I keep changing my plan, like our timetable. I plan something, but I have to keep changing the timetable basis what is important to me. Correct? Okay, that's what we discussed. And this was the most important point, development of overall plan, repetitive exam questions. Full neat development of plan. So this is repetitive exam questions, and you need to remember this development of overall plan. Can you read it?
Development of an overall plan. The terms of its engagement and statutory responsibilities. Nature and timing of reports. Applicable legal or statutory requirements. Accounting policies adopted by the clients. Effect of new accounting or auditing pronouncement on the audit. Identification of significant audit areas. Setting of materiality level for audit processes or purposes. The degree of reliance on accounting system and internal control. Possible rotation of emphasis on specific audit area. The nature and extent of audit evidence to be obtained. The work of internal auditors and the extent of their involvement. The involvement of other auditors. The involvement of other auditors, the involvement of expert, the allocation of work between joint auditors, establishing and coordinating staffing requirements.
These
The
are all
audit,
many things, correct? These are many things that comes in development of an overall plans like terms, nature, AFRF, correct? Accounting policies. What is the significant audit areas? Which one are important? What is the degree of reliance on this? What is the possible rotation? Correct? Involvement of the auditors, involvement of experts. All of these are important when it comes to audit. Correct? The auditor
Yes,
shall document the overall audit strategy, the audit plan, any significant changes made during the audit engagement to the overall audit strategy or the audit plan, and the reasons for such changes. Okay, this is what you need to look at it. Now, an audit program is a detailed plan and consists of a series of verification of procedures to be applied to the financial statements and accounts of a given company for the purpose of obtaining sufficient evidence to enable the auditor to express an informed opinion on such statements. Why is program needed? Remember, we said program is for each of the balance sheet items, like fixed assets, there is a program. Like current assets, there is a program. Correct? There's an inventory, there is a program. You recollect that? Program tells you, like it's a checklist of the things. What to verify in that area is what the program tells you. Strategy is overall. Plan is in between. Program is for every item. For example, strategy is taking up CA. Plan is making a timetable. Correct? Program is what is the timetable for each subject? What is the timetable for me for accounts? What is the timetable for me for company law? Each subject when I do, it's called as program, which is a subset of my planning. Each item requires different program. Same thing cannot be done. Same timetable cannot be applicable for everything. MCQ practical papers. In some cases, I have to do case studies. Similarly, for an auditor, each area has got different methodologies to do. When you select a program for each methodology, that's called as audit program for a set of items in the balance sheet. P&L is what an auditor does. So a development of an overall audit plan includes audit program. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So what is therefore important? Understanding the auditor's objective. What is the objective of audit?
To obtain a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from the material misstatements and to report on the financial statements and communicate in accordance with standards and audit.
Excellent, right? To communicate in accordance with standards and auditing. That is an objective of audit. What an auditor should therefore do? He should do an audit procedure. What is audit procedure? 2 arrow marks of audit procedure. Nempidya.
Risk assessment procedure and further
Risk
audit
assessment procedure, other procedure. Other procedure, 2 arrow marks.
Test of control.
and substantive
Test
procedure.
of control, substantive procedure. Substantive procedure, 2 arrow marks.
Test of details and
details,
analytical procedure.
Test of details and analytical procedures. Test of details, 2 arrow marks.
Test of
transaction.
Test of transactions and test of
Account
balances. The test of transactions and test of balances. Test of transactions is also called as class of transactions. Test of balances is also called as account balances. This is also called as vouching, also called as verification. Vouching is transactions audit. Verification is balances audit. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we discussed about specific instructions based on the past experience of the auditor, what you need to do, allocation of work amongst the team members, how to allocate, and the timing check. These are all the different things an auditor should keep in mind while developing the overall audit plan. Nempidya. Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So now, what is audit documentation? Idu madidvi 2 types of files ide audit documentation alli. What are the 2 types of files?
Final audit file.
Permanent audit file, current audit file. PAF and CAF, puff and coffee and the ಹೇಳಿದೆ PAF and CAF, right? What is PAF? PAF is a permanent audit file where I save all the documents which are required for all the years of audit for me. Memorandum of Association, key agreements, long-term agreements are all that saved in the permanent audit file. Whereas what is current audit file? Only the information related to current year is saved in the current audit file. That is my current audit file needs. Am I correct? PAF and the CAF. This is what we spoke about. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So audit documentation is a property of whom? Documents of auditor is a property of whom?
Auditor.
Auditor.
Audit documentation is a property of the auditor. Can auditor share this to somebody?
No.
He can share extracts of document basis his discretion. 230 underline ಮಾಡಿದ paragraph in India. He can share the extracts of documents based on his discretion, keeping confidentiality in mind. He still has to keep a confidentiality in mind, but somebody asks me to share. Example, income tax department asks me. Yes, I can share the extract of the documents, but that is not compulsion. It is my choice to share or not to share. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So audit evidence, what is audit evidence? Should be sufficient and appropriate. Audit evidence, when I'm saying audit documentation, it is based on the evidence. Evidence has to be sufficient and
Appropriate.
appropriate. What do you mean by sufficient and appropriate? Quantitative as well as
Qualitative.
qualitative. Therefore, written representations are the internal evidences which are important. Certain items I need to take external confirmations. Example, debtors, creditors, I've taken external confirmation. Few items I need to have a specific consideration. Example, 501, specific consideration related to
Audit evidence.
501, yeah, specific consideration related to 3 items.
Inventory, litigation and claims, and segment information.
Excellent. Excellent. Inventory, litigation and claims, and segment information. These are the 3 items where I have considerations, special considerations. Correct? Inventory, litigation and claims, and segment information. Auditor, when he's obtaining the audit evidence, he need to keep in mind the evidence is sufficient and appropriate. When he keeps in mind sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, one other thing he also has to keep in mind is, what is audit evidence? Audit evidence is an information used by the auditor to arrive the conclusion on which audit opinion is based. Nenpidya?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the purpose of audit documentation? Assisting the engagement team to plan and perform the audit, assisting engagement team to direct and supervise the audit, enabling the engagement team to be accountable for its work, retaining a record of matters, continuing significance to further audits, enabling the conduct of quality control reviews and inspections, enabling the conduct of external inspections. These are all the important aspects of the auditor, correct? Now, what are the examples of the audit documentation? Audit program, analysis, issues memorandum. Issues memorandum, issues memorandum, all the issues I will write down at one place and clarify what are all the issues of the issues memorandum. We call it as also audit notebook. Audit notebook is a notebook of an auditor where he draws all his observations of an audit, and he goes to the client, asks them what are the observations. Correct down. Audit notebook, also called as issues memorandum. You just told it. It's also called as issues memorandum. We spoke about audit documentation. Audit documentation includes certain things. Audit program, checklist, questionnaire, internal control questionnaire, analysis, emails, communication. All of that is part of my audit documentation. Whatever I collect over the period of my audit is all called as audit documentation. Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So we spoke about this. Then we spoke about what is the auditing documentation means. It is either manual files or electronic files. Both. Audit file could include either a manual file or an electronic file. We spoke about, for example, information could be manual in the notebook, or information could also be electronical, which is in SAP or in any of the systems. Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we spoke about it. We spoke about nature of audit documentation. Audit documentation includes what are all the things. I think this was largely on audit documentation we spoke about. We spoke about audit file, 2 types of audit filing, just to hear them in here.
Current audit file and
Permanent audit file and current
Audit file.
Correct. What is the definition of an auditing evidence? Just now we discussed.
Information
used by auditor at arriving at conclusion
on which audit opinion is based.
A very good. Information used by the auditor in arriving at the conclusion on which audit opinion is the base. What is the objective of the auditor? We discussed. Objective of the auditor is to obtain reasonable assurance to provide a report in accordance with essays. So while he obtains the reasonable assurance, there is a factor that he keeps in mind. What is it called? SAAE. What is SAAE? Sufficient.
Sufficient and
Sufficient and
appropriate
appropriate
audit evidence.
Very good. Sufficiency means
Measure of
quantity or
quantity.
quality. Appropriateness means
Quality.
Quality.
audit evidence. Correct. We spoke about what are the factors that could affect the audit evidence. Some of the factors that affects the audit evidence. Materiality. If an item is not material, I'll not collect the audit evidence. Risk of material misstatement. What is the chances of risk of material misstatement I have? What is the risk means? Audit risk. What is audit risk means? Risk that auditor would give.
Would express inappropriate audit opinion.
Very good. Inappropriate audit opinion. That is
Opinion.
an audit risk. What is the risk that I'm running? There are three components of audit risk. Inherent risk,
Control risk, detection risk.
detection risk. Inherent risk, control risk, detection risk. Inherent risk, susceptibility of account balance or class of transactions that could be material either individually or when aggregated together, that could go wrong before introduction of entities' internal controls is inherent risk. That the error is possible. Example, when I know that there's an item like cash, fraud is a natural thing. I need to be careful about it. When an item like inventory, pilferation or shortage of the inventory, picking up the inventory, shoplifting could be very common. I need to be careful about it, right? This is what we discussed. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the different audit procedures to obtain audit evidence? Nenpidiya audit evidence ali procedures for audit evidence or methods of audit evidence. 7 methods: inspection, observation, external confirmation, recalculation, reperformance, analytical procedure, inquiry. These are the 7 methods that I use to obtain the audit evidence. Correct? What are the methods? Inspection, observation, external confirmation, recalculation, reperformance, analytical procedure, and inquiry. Are we clear, friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So what is the ownership of audit documentation? We discussed. Who is the owner of the audit documentation?
Auditor.
Auditor. Auditor is the
Auditor.
owner of the audit documentation. Whereas auditor can share the extracts of the documents to others basis his
Discretion.
discretion. It is his choice to share the extracts to others. Correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So then we spoke about audit evidence. Audit evidence explains what constitutes audit evidence in an audit of financial statements and deals with the auditor's responsibility to design and perform audit procedures to obtain sufficient, appropriate audit evidence to be able to draw reasonable conclusion on which to base the auditor's opinion. So we spoke about this in the audit evidence. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Now, coming back to audit procedure, Madhuri, risk assessment procedure, further audit procedure. Test of control, substantive procedure. Test of details, analytical procedure. Test of transactions, also called as vouching. Test of balance is also called as verification. This was an important concept from an exam point of view. Audit evidence, materiality, independence, entire company audit is an risk assessment procedure is very important from exam point of view. Correct? Then we did something called as assertions. What are assertions? Representations made by management, explicit or otherwise, embodied in the financial statement to consider potential misstatements that may occur. These are called as assertions. The 3 types of assertions: assertions related to class of transactions, assertions related to account balances, assertions related to presentation and disclosure. Assertions related to class of transactions could be of occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, classifications. Occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, classifications are class of transaction assertions. Account balances, existence, rights and obligation, completeness, valuation and allocation. Idu madidaralva, Siddharth also has done all of this, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then presentation and disclosure, occurrence and rights and obligation, completeness, classification and understandability, accuracy and valuation are the assertions related to 3 things: class of transactions, account balances, financial statements. Right? There are 2 levels of audit risk. In other, there are 2 levels of audit risk. Audit risk can happen at 2 levels.
Financial statement level and
very good. ABCT level. You're right. Financial statement level and ABCT level. What do you mean by ABCT level?
Account balance and class of transaction.
Very good. Account balance and class of transaction level. Account balances are called as test of balances. Class of transactions are called as journal entries. Correct? So nothing but class of transactions are journal entry audit, account balances are ledgers audit, presentation and disclosure is auditing the financial statements. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So then we spoke about risk assessment procedure, further audit procedure. Already Madhvi. What are the types of audit evidence? They are based on the source, based on the nature. Based on the source, internal, external. Based on the nature, visual, oral, documentary. Okay? Based on the source, we say internal, external. Order of reliability. E to E, I to E, E to I to I.
Yes, ma'am.
Information which is held by third party and prepared by third party is most reliable. Information which is held by me but used by third party is second most reliable. Prepared by third party but held by me, because it comes to me, I can do anything. Therefore, it is least reliable. Held by me, prepared by me, owned by me, everything is with me. Example, inventory, no third party is there. Then it is least reliable. Order of reliability, E to E, I to E, E to I to I. Okay? Based on the source. Based on the nature, information could be either documentary in nature, or it could be visual in nature, or it could be oral. Spoken information is oral. Documentary is the paper, what is available with us, document. Visual means a soft copy. What you're seeing in the screen is a soft copy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a visual information. So information which is documentary is most reliable as compared to information which is visual. Correct? Which is oral. Information which is documentary is the most reliable information. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, relevance and reliability of audit evidence. Relevance deals with the logical connection with the purpose of the audit procedures and assertions under consideration. Relevance and reliability. Relevance andre how relevant and current the information is. Reliability andre is this trustworthy. Information is reliable, coming from a right source. Example, external confirmations are more reliable than written representations. So relevance and reliability of an audit evidence is an important point. Reliability increases when the information is obtained from independent sources, when the controls are effective, when it is obtained directly by auditor, information that is directly by auditor, then coming through client, the one which is obtained directly by auditor is more reliable. Correct? Obtained in the documentary form is more reliable. Provided by original documents and not photocopy documents are more reliable. Photocopy and Xerox. We don't call Xerox, we say photocopy. Any photocopy documents are original documents are more reliable than
Photocopy.
This photocopy, whitener hakputtu, change ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, photocopy ತೆಗಿತೀವಿ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ smartness, correct? We do all smart tools to do it. That is why auditor will always rely on original documents, correct? Therefore, even when you have to submit your mark sheet, they say, get it as attested. Why attested? Because when you're attesting a photocopy, somebody independently verifying the mark sheet and saying, yes, the marks are correct, attestation is working. Correct or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the written representations. What are written representations? Written representations are representation provided by whom to whom?
Management to auditor.
Management to
Auditor.
Written representations are provided by management to auditor. Definition of written representation: written statements by management provided to the auditor to confirm certain matters, to support other audit evidence. This is all the written representations in the firm. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what are the representations? Representations are provided by management that are embodied in the financial statement to consider different types of potential misstatements that may occur. We already spoke about this. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Then we spoke about audit evidence specific consideration related to certain items. 3 items in the we've already had inventory, litigation, and claims. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that I need to verify in inventory? Very important. Inventory, I need to verify physical verification. Correct? Should I need to do physical verification, or auditor attends the physical verification?
Attends the physical verification.
Is it compulsory for him to attend all the physical verifications or only significant inventory?
Significant.
Only for significant inventory, he has to attend the physical verification. Remaining, he doesn't have to attend the physical verification. Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We spoke about this. Yes or no? We did speak about it. Matadidvaidana.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Attendance of physical inventory, inspecting the inventory to ascertain its existence and evaluate its condition and performing test counts. Observing compliance with management's instructions and the performance of procedures for physical inventory count. Obtaining audit evidence as to the reliability of management's count procedures. These procedures may serve as test of controls or substantive procedures depending on the auditor's risk assessment, planned approach, and specific procedures carried out. Correct? So then we spoke about matters which are relevant in planning the attendance of physical inventory. You need to look at the nature of inventory. What is the stage of completion of work in progress? Remember, I was giving you an example of a stock verification. I went to one client. They gave me all the sanitary items. Then I had to sit and count all of the boxes. Then there were chips. One other place I went, there was microchips. Then I said, we weighed it, right? We counted by weighing one chip, that was some grams. Then we weighed everything. Then we divided by X grams to know how many overall chips were made, microchips, right? How was it made? So different ways, stages of completion of inventory, risk of material misstatement related to inventory, nature of inventory controls, timing of physical inventory, location at which inventory is held. All of these matters have to be considered while planning the attendance of the inventory. Then we spoke about litigation and claims. Litigation and claim, this was very important. Litigation and claim, wherever there are more expenses incurred for legal matters, right? You need to inquire with in-house legal counsel people. Review the minutes of the meeting to understand if there are any points related to legal matters that has come up. Review the legal expense account, retainership accounts, more show cause notice of the show cause. If there are more show cause notices that are coming up, the auditor will get a clue that legal expenditure is increasing. He'll look at whether that expenditure is recorded or not. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Segment information. The auditor shall obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the presentation and disclosure of segment information. You need to understand what are different segments. Remember, we discussed segment andre either a product segment or geographical segment. Product segment andre, if I'm a company like, for example, ITC, I've got hotels, correct? There's tobacco products, there's confectionery or eatables. There are different segments of the business, different. They've diversified their business into different segments. You agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this is a diversification. They have different segments of the business. So now when they have a different segments of the business, whether those segments are properly disclosed is what I will look at it. Segment information. Right? Then I'll go to external. Okay, I think that is all about this standard. 501 ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ 3 things ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. Inventory, physical count of inventory. How do I ensure whether I should present for inventory or not? Then what is the matters related to physical inventory counting? What should I keep in mind? How do I audit litigation and claims? And how do I audit segment information? This was all about our chapter on audit evidence. We're just moving to audit evidence chapter. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Then we also spoke about external confirmation. 2 types of external confirmations.
Positive and negative.
Positive confirmation.
Positive confirmation, negative confirmation. What do you mean by positive confirmation? Positive confirmation.
Ma'am, where we request the external confirmation that person that even it is positive, he will give response. In negative, only we receive those persons who are negative, like if it is no.
Whose response is not matching, correct? And positive, you will give response irrespective of amount is reconciling or not. I sent a credit card saying your balance is 10,000 as per the books. Is it 10,000? You will say, yes, it is 10,000. Or no, it's not 10,000. You're giving yes or no, both answer. That is in negative. If it's yes, you will not talk. If it's no, you will say, no, sorry, this is not matching. So negative creates an exceptional reporting. Whatever comes to you, you know, is not matching. there is positive ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೆಟರ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಡಸ್ಟ್ಬಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸಾರಿ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫೈಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನೋ ಇದ್ರೆ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ನೋ ಒನ್ಸ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಸ್ ಫರ್ದರ್ ಆಡಿಟ್, further procedure, why it's not matching. I'll ask a client what is the reason. Therefore, popularly negative confirmations are used because it creates exceptional reporting. Auditor can focus on few items, correct? That is what we discussed in external confirmations. So we spoke about what is the objective of external confirmation: more reliability. E to E has got a more reliability as compared to I to I, which has got a lesser reliability. Therefore, an auditor should look at what is external confirmation: audit evidence obtained as a direct written response to the auditor from a third party in a paper form or by electronic or other medium. He can obtain electronic, so external confirmation either manually or electronically or by post. But what is important? The triangle is important. Auditor informs the client whom to send the confirmation. Party will send the confirmation directly to auditor. So ACP, correct? ACP, A to C, client, C to P, party, party to A, auditor. ACP triangle is important.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So then we spoke about positive request, negative respect, non-response, and then failure to receive a response. You didn't even get a response, then you have failed to receive a response. Exception, whenever there's a difference, there is an exception. You need to address the exception. Therefore, in negative confirmation, what you get is all exception only. Okay? All that you get in the negative confirmation is exceptions. Do you agree? Okay. Now, external confirmation procedure: determining the information to be confirmed or requested, selecting the appropriate confirming party, designing the confirmation request, sending the request, including follow-up request. This is basically a confirmation procedure. External confirmation procedure, first identify who are the parties whom you should send. Then send the information, to send the letter to that party. That party should directly respond to you. While selecting the parties, inform the client. Sometimes it may so happen that you already have a dispute. Dispute already there. Prema and me have a dispute that amount is not matching. When I send confirmation, it's waste of time because anyways, amount is not matching. Then you don't want to send the confirmation to disputed parties. Doesn't make sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. If, let's say, auditor is told by management that do not send confirmation, management is refusing, then what you need to do? First inquire. Refuse evaluate what is the implication. The management says, I'm refusing because there's already a dispute. He's fighting against us. This person is not doing any more trade with us. He's actually not the right person. The data are already assigned to somebody. There's a reason. Okay, understand the reason. Understand the implications. Then perform the alternative audit procedure. Two types of procedure here. The additional audit procedure, alternative audit procedure. Alternative audit procedure, I'm doing something other than what I've done. Additional audit procedure, alternative means what? I've not done this, therefore I'm doing this. Example, I don't want to do CA, I want to do CS. Alternative, I want to do CA and CS, additional. I did CA, I also want to do CS. Additionally, I want to do more. I don't want to do CA, I'll do CS. Alternatively, I want to do CS. Auditor has not performed any procedure. He want to perform, therefore, external confirmation. For whatever the reason, he couldn't do it. Therefore, he's now doing something else. What is something else? Subsequent realization procedure. Remember, I'll check the balances, bank statement, whether these data are realized in the future. Because I already am doing a post-mortem. I've got a copy of the bank statement. I look at the future. That is called subsequent realization procedure. One example for alternative audit procedure. Additional means I'll do external confirmation also. I'll do subsequent realization procedure also. Double confirmation. I'm doing corroborative audit evidence. Corroborative and more strength, good evidence. Correct evidence which is matching with different sources. It's called corroborative audit evidence. That is where I do when I want to do additional audit procedures to get a confirmation. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now this is what we spoke about in the audit evidence negative confirmation. Okay, now let's come here. Audit procedure regarding opening balances. In 501. Initial considerations, audit considerations related to initial audit engagements and opening balances. One diagram, smiley, correct? If it's a new engagement, this standard is not applicable. If it is a new client, the standard is not applicable. If it's a new engagement where there's already a previous auditor, or the financial statements are not audited previous year, then 501 is applicable. What do you look at it? When the previous year is not audited by you, you need to look at opening balances audit. Opening balances audit includes three things. Auditing the opening balances, brought forward to current year from a carry forward numbers. Check ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದು point number one we'll do. Point number two, whether those accounting policies are matching, significantly matching is what I'll do in point number two. Then I'll do point number three, that appropriate accounting policies have been followed by the company, and is there any deviation to accounting standards? I'll check. These are the things I'll check in opening balances. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This diagram is very important from an opening balances perspective, 501 that we did. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Responsibility of an auditor when it comes to opening balances. Let's read this. Just read the responsibilities. Because you can read.
Responsibilities of the auditor. There are specific accounting and disclosure requirements for related parties' relationship, transaction and balances to enable user of the financial statement to understand the nature and effect on the financial statements. The auditor has a responsibility to perform audit procedures to identify, assess, and respond to risk of material misstatement arising from the entity's failure to appropriate account for related parties' relationship, transaction, or balances. The auditor needs to obtain an understanding of an entity's related parties' relation and transaction sufficient to be able to conclude whether the financial statement, insofar as they are affected by those relationship and transaction, achieve a true and fair presentation or are not misleading for compliance framework. In addition, an understanding of entities' related parties' relationship and transaction is relevant to auditors' evaluation of whether fraud risk factors are present as required by SA 240. This is because fraud may be more easily committed through related parties. Owing to the inherent limitation of an audit, there is an unavoidable risk that some material misstatement of the financial statement may not be detected, even though the audit is properly planned and performed in accordance with the SS. In the context of related parties, the potential effect of inherent limitation of the auditor's ability to detect material misstatement are greater for some such reasons as the following. Management may be unaware of the existence of all related parties' relationship. Related parties' relationship may be present a greater opportunity for collusion, concealment, or manipulation by management. Planning and performing the audit with professional skepticism as required by SA 200 is therefore particularly important in this context, given the potential for undisclosed related party relationship and transaction. The requirements in this essay are designed to assist the auditor in identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement associated with related party and transaction and designing in audit procedures to respond to assessed risk.
This is all related to related parties. What are the responsibility of auditor? 550. That's also important. See, this particular diagrammatic presentation gives you what are all the important things. See, 32 pages now only revision ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು ನಾವು. That's why I'm doing it now. But it's important that all important exam-oriented topics are covered in this. Are we fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Right. So this is now what are some of the important points? Okay, related parties. We discussed about it. That is fine. Objective of the auditor is fine. Implication of audit report is fine. I'm now going to going concern. Very important, right? Going concern. This was a very important going concern point we discussed. There are basically 3 indicators for going concern. NPDA, operational indicators, industry indicators, financial indicators. Operational indicators and their operations are stopped. Financial indicators and their profitability is not there. For example, huge losses, negative losses, those are called financial indicators. Other indicators could be government restrictions, maybe COVID, right? Lockdowns. These are some things which could have resulted into going concern issue for you because the economy is slowed down. There are 3 reasons why a going concern issue can happen. 1, operational indicators. 2, financial indicators. 3, other indicators. Whenever there's a going concern issue, 570 is applicable. Correct?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is the objective of an auditor in relation to going concern? He wants to obtain a sufficient, appropriate audit evidence regarding the appropriateness of management's use of going concern, basis the accounting in the preparation of financial statement. Going concern is the basic accounting convention. Accrual, consistency, going concern is must. I will disclose some things only if these three things are not followed. If these three things are followed, I don't have to disclose to say that it is followed. Tell me why? Because it's anyways expected to be followed, right? If there is a going concern issue, which I know is going to be an issue and it's something that I must and mandatorily have to disclose, then I need to talk about going concern issue. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is exactly what is important for us. Is it all okay for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So we spoke about this objective of the auditor regarding the going concern. Then we actually spoke about what are the implications of the going concern in the auditor's report. What are the implications of the auditor's report? If the going concern assumption is appropriate, and both the parties are comfortable, there is no going concern issue, unmodified opinion. If the going concern issue is inappropriate, and the going concern issue is there, but management has given us sufficient information to an auditor to convince that there is no problem with going concern. Example, sir, huge losses are there. That's okay, sir. Don't worry. I've got the contracts. Next year will become profitable. Very good. Now that there's no information related to going concern, there's sufficient information to prove that no going concern issue arises. Auditor will only give an emphasis of matter. He emphasizes there are indicators, but things are okay. Right? When the going concern is inappropriate, management is not able to convince, an auditor will actually give adverse opinion. He says, sorry, there's an issue. I'm not convinced. Adverse opinion. When there's a material uncertainty, you don't know whether it will happen or not. Then you bring a separate paragraph in audit report called as material uncertainty over going concern. Audit report format alli ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ನೆನಪಿದೆಯಾ? Title, R2C, opinion, basis of opinion, key audit matter, material uncertainty over going concern, management responsibility, auditor's responsibility, legal requirements for an audit, and signature. This is a component of an audit report. One of the component is also material uncertainty over going concern. So whenever there's an uncertainty, auditor should give a proper disclosure in audit report. If it is proved that there is a going concern issue already, you need to give an adverse opinion. That was 570 going concern related issues. Are we good?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now coming back to audit risk as a concept. Idana neat madadvi. Audit risk ಅಂದ್ರೆ risk that auditor would give inappropriate audit opinion. The audit risk could arise on account of two things. There could be two erroneous conclusions. Test of controls, test of details. That the test of controls are more effective than they actually are. Auditor thought controls are more effective. Right? And therefore, what auditor decided is that, okay, I don't have to do more work. Because he did a less work, he ended up being inefficient. Sorry, he's ended up being not effective. He hasn't done quantity, which is sufficient enough. He thought there are very, very loose controls. He did 100% audit. He wasn't efficient. He did so much to conclude that this is an unmodified opinion. Hence, an auditor should keep a balance between efficiency, effectiveness. Effectiveness is how much he will do. Efficiency is what he will do. Correct? And how much is basically effectiveness. Little if I do, I'm not effective. I need to do much. But out of that, what I did, whether it is qualitative, enough for me, is good for me to give an opinion. That is called as qualitative. Quantitative, qualitative. Effective, efficiency. Every day I read 200 pages, very effective. Out of this, I remember one page, not efficient. Right? How much you read doesn't matter. How much you remember also matters. Right? Auditor does so much, very good, which is effective. But it has not given me any result, not efficient. Right? It's important for us to know the difference between efficiency and effectiveness of an auditor. Therefore, why auditor does all of this? There are misstatements that are involved when I talk about audit risk. Two kinds of misstatements that could be involved. Erroneous conclusions, either conclusion related to controls being going wrong or conclusions related to details being not correct. We call this as misstatement. What is a misstatement? It's a difference between amount, classification, and presentation of a disclosure correct, as per the reported financial statement item. It's a difference between amount classification, presentation, or disclosure of an item, correct, as compared to an amount classification, presentation, and disclosure of an item, which is required as per applicable financial reporting framework. What is reported is different than what is applicable. Then I call it as misstatement. And a misstatement could arise on account of either a fraud or a error. There could be two levels of misstatements: overall financial statement level, or it could be assertion level of class of transactions and account balances. Misstatement could arise either on account of overall level or on account of class of transactions and account balance level. Two arrow marks: ABCD, FS. This is what we discussed about. And we discussed audit risk is nothing but risk of material misstatement into detection risk. Audit risk is equal to IR into CR into DR. Combined risk anta kariತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. Combined risk is equal to IR into CR. Inherent risk and control risk together makes my detection risk. Therefore, what is inherent risk? The susceptibility that something can go wrong before introducing the controls is inherent risk. Something went wrong after introducing the controls, and the controls are not able to pay the CMM. They're not able to prevent, correct, or detect a misstatement that is material for me. Then I call it as control risk. Detection risk: auditor is unable to identify a misstatement in the financial statement, then it is a detection risk. Procedures performed by an auditor is unable to identify a misstatement existing in the financial statement is called detection risk. Inherent risk, control risk, detection risk are the components of the risks that we spoke about. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the 3 points in the risk assessment procedure? Inquiries, analytical procedure, observation, and inspection. Idu madide nanu 3 procedures which are involved as part of the risk assessment procedure in 315. What do you mean by combined risk assessment? IR into CR is called as combined risk assessment. Inherent risk, control risk. If an item is very risky, I should introduce controls. If controls are working, the item's risk will reduce. If the item is very risky, if I don't introduce controls, item will become more risky because I don't have any controls. It is just an inherently risky for me. So when I look at combined risk, I look at both. Okay, item is risky, very good. But do they have controls? Yes, they have control. Therefore, overall detection risk will reduce. Higher the inherent and the control risk, lesser the detection risk. The reason is that auditor knows something is wrong. He'll automatically perform more procedure. His mind will say, okay, things are not correct, means I have to do. But his mind will not say everything is looking correct, then I will not audit. Then there is a problem. Combined risk. This is what is called as combined risk. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Now, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement to understand the entity and its environment. The objective of the auditor madidvi. Risk assessment procedure is over. What is internal control? Definition madidvi. What are internal controls? Definition madidvi. Objectives of internal control we have done. What are the objectives of internal control? That the transactions are authorized, that the transactions are executed, limits are followed, safeguarding of assets is done. 4 large objectives. Safeguarding of assets, compliance to laws and regulations,
Effectiveness and efficiency,
reliable financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations. These are the 4 objectives of why I'll have internal control. Do you agree?
yes, ma'am.
And the entity's internal control should have a structure. There's some, internal control structure includes, if you remember, control environment, control procedure, accounting system. Control environment is driven by A3 anta helkottide. Attitude, action, awareness of top management with respect to internal controls. Attitude, action, and awareness of top management with respect to internal controls is what we discussed in internal controls chapter. You have to, with this class, you'll have to start reading more. Some things ನೆನಪಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಿವಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸಾಕಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ರಿವಿಷನ್. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? See, control environment, control procedure, information system. These are all the different elements of internal control that we had discussed. What are the elements of internal control? Therefore, communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values, commitment to competence, participation by those charged with the governance, management's philosophy and operating style, organization structure, assignment of authority and responsibility, human resources policies and practices. These are all the different elements of internal control. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Communicating financial roles and responsibilities, obtaining an understanding by the auditor. This is all okay. We spoke about risk assessment process. All of this is fine. This is all related to internal controls that we did. Monitoring of controls, evaluating controls. These are 3 ways to evaluate control. Then narrative record. Narrative record and list, description ಬರೆಯೋದು, correct? Full narrative record ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Checklist ಅಂದ್ರೆ instructions given by auditor to audit staff is called a checklist. Checklist ಅಂದ್ರೆ how to do it ಅಂತ. Instructions given by auditor to audit staff. Questionnaire ಅಂದ್ರೆ list of yes, no, not applicable questions, which I'll sit with management, ask a question, right? Yes, no, not applicable. Questionnaire. Flowchart ಅಂದ್ರೆ flowchart gives a diagrammatic representation. This entire revision class that we are doing now is a flowchart. It's a diagrammatic representation of the subject, right? Diagrammatic representation. The 4 ways of evaluating internal controls. Do a narrative description, or prepare a checklist, or prepare a questionnaire, or prepare the flow chart. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is all about internal control, reliability, internal audit, fine. This is all internal control related matters. Who can be appointed as internal auditor? You company accounts internal auditor, section 138. Right? Internal audit is compulsory for few companies. Internal audit is not mandatory for all companies. But as long as there's an internal auditor, I need to ensure that I use the work of an internal auditor under 610, using the work of internal auditors. So that is a point on internal control. One quick reading of internal control is extremely important. The chapter on internal control is a repetitive exam question. You have to just get thorough with the chapter on internal control. Then coming to auditor's report. Auditor's report is 700 to 710 series talks about audit report. 700 is unmodified opinion. 701 is key audit matter. 705 is modified opinion. 706 is emphasis of matter and other matter paragraph. 710, responsibility of auditor with respect to other information. When I speak about 700, forming an opinion and reporting the auditor, this is a format of the audit report. What is a format? Title, addressee, auditor's opinion, identify all of these, auditor's opinion only. Then basis of opinion should have all this facts, refers to the section of auditor's report that describes the responsibilities. Basis of opinion tells me why and where the amounts are not correct. Then I go to management responsibility. Okay, going concern idre going concern kodtene. Key audit matter idre key audit matter kodtene. What is key audit matter? Those matter which auditor in his professional judgment, correct, believes it to be of most significance out of the matters which are communicated to those charged with the governance, correct? In order to call something as a key audit matter, steps there. First 2, I'll have to communicate something to those charged with the governance. Out of the matters communicated to those charged with the governance, I'll pick up few matters which are key audit matters for me. I cannot give a surprise and ಹೇಳಿದೆ. Audit committee ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು open ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು surprise, ಏನ್ surprise ನೀವು ನಂಗೆ ಹೇಳೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. No, I didn't tell you. The standard wants you to tell you. Right? You have to inform the management. Any matter that you inform the management and those charged with the governance can only go as key audit matter. Then responsibility for financial statements we discussed. Auditor's responsibility paragraph will come. One homework ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ audit report full ಬರೀರಿ ಅಂತ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬರೆದ್ರ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ?
Yes, ma'am.
ಬರಿಬೇಕು. ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾವಾಗೋ ಮಾಡ್ದಂಗಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬಿಸ್ಕೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ನೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಸ್ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್, ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಬಿಸ್ಕೆಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ? ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಏನೇ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಏನು ನೆನಪಿರಲ್ಲ. ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಬಿಸ್ಕೆಟ್. Then last for Parle-G biscuit. Why? I'll become intelligent. Okay? Get me one Parle-G, I'll become genius. Exam hall of genius agakagala. Parle-G works only for 2nd standard kids. They can eat and become genius. You cannot eat and become genius. You actually need to read and become genius. Okay. Okay. Then we'll give a location of the description of the auditor's responsibilities. Either ಅದನ್ನ responsibility of auditor, either ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ or annexure ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, or I'll give a link in the website. Right? The auditor's responsibilities are either included in the report or given in the annexure, or I give it a link to the website where all this particular responsibilities are laid down. This is what an auditor does, correct?
Yes,
Then
yes.
other responsibility of an auditor, signature of auditor, place of the signature, all of that will automatically come, right? So this is all audit report format and why audit report is important, what are the components of the signature, adella madidvi, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Next to 701 key audit matter andre, we discussed about that key audit matter definition. Key audit matters are those matters that in the auditor's professional judgment were of most significance in the audit of financial statements of the current period. Key audit matters are selected from matters communicated with those charged with the governance. Communicating key audit matters, the introductory language in this section of the auditor's report shall state, key audit matters are those matters that in the auditor's professional judgment were of most significant in the audit of the financial statements of the current period. These matters are picked from the matters which are already communicated to those charged with the governance. Applicability of 701. It's not applicable to non-listed clients. It's only applicable to listed clients. And non-listed clients, it's a choice of an auditor whether to give a key audit matter or not. Important for you to look at it. 705 modification. Three types of modification will come. Qualification, adverse,
Disclaimer.
Qualified opinion, adverse opinion, and disclaimer of opinion. What is qualified opinion? True and fair, subject to a reservation. What is adverse opinion? Not true and fair. What is disclaimer of opinion?
Able to express
Able to express the opinion. Correct? So it's a disclaimer of opinion. These are the things we discussed in the types of modified opinions. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So we spoke about all of these. We spoke about this table, NPDA, materiality and pervasiveness table. What is material and what is pervasive? If there is a financial statement, material misstatement, which is material but not pervasive, qualified opinion, it is material and pervasive. Adverse opinion.
Adverse opinion.
If I don't have a information, what I don't have is material and not pervasive, then
Qualified.
Qualified opinion. If it is material and pervasive, then
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer of an opinion.
disclaimer of opinion. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is discussed, and then we'll go to emphasis of matter and other matter paragraph in the independent auditor's report. EOM and OM in the independent auditor's report. Emphasis of matter paragraph is a paragraph where I'm already disclosing something which is disclosed by management. Correct? Other matter paragraph is something which I'm disclosing other than what is disclosed by management.
Yes, ma'am.
The emphasis of matter and other matter paragraph are relevant and important for you to look at it. Okay, either in your miscellaneous topics is bank audit. What are the different types of the banks? So I'm quickly finishing this. I'll finish the chapter 10 and we'll solve 3 to 4 case studies. That's why I'm just quickly revising the document. We'll get overall picture of once, and then we will pick up 2 or 3 case studies and it'll help you how to solve it. That's my overall point. Right? Then there are different types of banks. Commercial banks, cooperative banks, development banks, right? Bank audit ali. Most important regulations are Banking Regulation, Companies Act, Regional Rural Banks Act, Banking Companies Act, Information Technology Act, Credit Information Companies Regulation. These are all the most important regulations. When you're performing the bank audit, you need to look at some of the questions. Who is involved? What is the matter? When it is done? Where it is done? Why it is done? How it is done? These are important assertions that you need to keep in mind while doing the bank audits. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the different types of the audit reports you will issue? It's called as LFAR, bank audit, long form audit report. LFAR, Siddharth. Did you show it? We discussed a long form audit report?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Long form audit report is done by you. So then you'll have to do a development of what is the bank auditor's role, conducting a bank audit. These are all important matters of bank audit that you need to remember. Most important item of a bank audit is advances, classification of advances, right? Whether it is a priority or a non-priority, sector-wise, right? Whether it is secured or unsecured, security-wise, whether it is standard or NPA. What do you mean by NPA?
Non-performing
assets.
Non-performing asset when it comes to a prudential norm side. And when you look at the categorization of NPA, it is called substandard assets, doubtful asset, subcategories under doubtful asset, and loss asset. Loss asset ke 100% provision martini. Doubtful asset ke, depending on the security, I'll create a provision. Standard assets ke, substandard asset ke 15% martini. Standard ke 0.25 martini. I'll create a provision for a non-performing assets based on this accounts. Correct? Bank audit accounts allidu.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all these are non-performing assets. NPA and advances are the big items for non-performing assets. And expenses, how do you audit the expenses in the bank audit? These are all different matters related to the bank audits. This is overall, this is overall your financial statement audits. How do you do things? Company audit barana iga. Company audit is a crucial 20 marks for us, correct? 20 to 25 marks company audit al barutte. Nenpidiya company audit section, so 139 to 148. Company audit, correct? 139 to 148 company audit sections.
Yes, ma'am.
ಇದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಇದರಿಂದ.
Yes,
139 is appointment of auditors. What are the provisions related to appointment? ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೊರಟೋಗೋಣ, ಈಸಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಸಮರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಇದೆಯಾ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ?
Yes, ma'am.
ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಫುಲ್, ನೆನಪಿದ್ಯಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's just do a quick summary of the chart. Coming back to 139. How many subsections are there in 139? 11 subsections. Subsection 1 talks about subsequent auditors of a non-government company to be appointed in AGM. Will hold the office from the conclusion of the first AGM to the 6th AGM. Is appointed by members. Rotation of auditors is applicable only for certain class of companies. Listed companies and other companies are bifurcated for the purpose of the rotation. If the rotation is applicable, individual has to rotate once in 5 years. If it is a firm, it has to rotate 2 terms of consecutive 5 years. If rotation is not applicable, I can appoint an auditor for every term of 5 years. Every 6th AGM, I can appoint the auditor again, right? Continuation of rotation. If the firm is getting appointed for 10 years, then firm can also have an internal rotation. More partners in the firm can start signing in years. One partner need not have to sign for 10 years. I can have 2 to 3 partners signing for 10 years. That's called internal rotation. The manner of the appointment has to be prescribed by central government. How to appoint an auditor is prescribed by central government in certain cases. Point number 4, central government has prescribed the rules in which an auditor has to be appointed. Remember, in the when the auditor has to be appointed, point number 1, board of directors, like audit committee, will have a recommendation. They'll take a certificate from auditor that he is not disqualified. He's got limits of the audit, which is acceptable limits. Once he takes the certificate that these are acceptable limits, then he will go back, right? And then the company has to appoint, the audit committee will inform the board. Board likes it, they'll recommend to the members. Board doesn't like it, they'll come back to the audit committee. They'll tell the audit committee, so look at someone else. If audit committee is okay to look at someone else, that someone else will be recommended by audit committee to board, and board will recommend to the members, and the members will appoint. If the audit committee says, no, I still want to recommend the same person, I don't want to change, board, along with the fact that audit committee is not agreeing for the recommendation, audit committee is not happy to change the recommendation, board, along with its recommendation and reason for refusing the recommendation of an audit committee, will inform to the members. Adondu rule ide adalli, correct? Audit committee appointment, that's a manner in which the appointment has to be made. Then subsequent auditors in case of government companies are appointed by C&AG within 180 days from the end of financial year. First auditor of a non-government company is appointed by board of directors within 30 days of a registration of a company. First, ನೆನಪಿದ್ಯಾ? ನಾನು ಒಬ್ಳೆ ಬಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
First auditor in case of a government company is appointed by C&AG within 60 days. In first case, if members fails to appoint within 30 days, if the board fails to appoint within 30 days, members has to appoint within 90 days. ನೆನಪಿದ್ಯಾ ಇದು?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Government company, C&AG has to appoint within 60 days. If the C&AG fails, board has to appoint within next 30 days. If the board fails, members has to appoint within 60 days. For other than government company, appointment is done by members in an AGM. For a government company, appointment is done by C&AG within 180 days of end of financial year. That's what we discussed on appointment of auditors. Casual vacancy, 2 arrow marks. Other than government company, government company. Government company filled by board, full stop. Other than government company, 2 arrow marks. Resignation, non-resignation. If it is on account of a non-resignation, casual vacancy arising on account of non-resignation, board to appoint within 30 days. If it is on account of a resignation, board to appoint within 30 days, but members within 3 months have to give a confirmation or ratify the approval made by the board of directors. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Reappointment of a retiring auditor. Retiring auditor can be reappointed provided he has not expressed his unwillingness to continue, he is not disqualified, or members have not passed a resolution to not to appoint him. If these 3 conditions are okay, then he can be reappointed. But in any AGM, if I do not reappoint a person, it's considered to be automatic reappointment, which means if anybody did not reappoint a person, even though he is qualified, does not express a willingness, members doesn't want to remove him, but for some reason I didn't appoint anybody, the existing auditor continued to be considered as an auditor automatically. That was subsection 10. Audit committee, wherever there is an audit committee applicable in a company or for a company, audit committee takes the place of the takes a first place. Then audit committee informs the board, and everything from an auditor's appointment, if there is an audit committee will start the process of recommendation. If there is no audit committee, board will take up that work. 11 subsections. Correct down?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
140, removal of an auditor. Removal and resignation of an auditor. Madidvi. Nenpidya?
Yes, ma'am.
5 subsections ali. Removal. Reasonable opportunity of being heard should be given. Prior approval of the central government is required. Special resolution has to be passed if you are removing the auditor. Resignation. For a non-government company, statement of resignation to be filed within 30 days to ROC. For a government company, it has to be filed with both C&AG and ROC. The statement includes a reason for resignation and what are the facts, what are the relevant facts of resignation. If you don't comply with the provisions of 1 and 2, then the penalty will be 50,000, can go up to 5 lakhs. If you're appointing the auditor other than the retiring auditor, you're appointing somebody else, not the one who is going out after 5 years, then what you need to do? You have to give a special notice to people. A copy of that notice has to be sent to the auditor also. If auditor has a right to represent in AGM, his notice has to be circulated to members. But if he has given a notice which is defamatory in language, abusive in language, then I can go to the tribunal, take a permission to not to read out or send his representation to the people across. That is an important point in retiring auditor. How much you are reading, I don't know. Okay, removal of auditor. Removal can be done by suo motu by tribunal, or I can also make an application to central government to remove an auditor. If members are not removing, but if some set of people want to remove, but members are not agreeing, then I can go to the tribunal, file a complaint that there seems to be some oppression. Some members are, just tied up with the auditor. It is not seeing right. Then the tribunal will automatically pass an order to remove the auditor. This was section 140. 141 was the most important section. Correct? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, if you want to be a chartered accountant, if you're a chartered accountant, only you can audit. That is basically 141 subsection 1. If you're a firm of an LLP, majority of the partners residing in India should be practicing CAs. Following people cannot audit: body corporate other than LLP, officer or employee of the company, person who is in employment of an officer or employee of the company, a person who, his relative or partner, is holding any security or interest in the company or its subsidiary or its holding or associate or subsidiary of such holding company, is indebted to the company or its subsidiary or its holding or associate or a subsidiary of such holding in excess of 5 lakh rupees, has given a guarantee or provided any security in connection with indebtedness of any third person to the company or its subsidiary, its holding, associate or subsidiary of such holding company. Correct? This is something that we discussed in D, most important, for an amount in excess of 1 lakh. Holding a security in excess of 1 rupee is also not allowed, but a relative can hold a security up to a face value of 1 lakh. When I mean relative, it is aggregate of all relatives, not one individual relative. All of this here is an aggregate limit. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then a person or a firm, illi HSA baratte. DL in baratte, HSA. This is only talking about holding, subsidiary, associate, and subsidiary of such holding. Illi HSASA baratte. Holding, subsidiary, associate, subsidiary, and associate of such holding company. If you have a commercial relationship, you are disqualified. A person whose relative is a director or is an employment of the company as a director or KMP. Person whose relative is a director or is an employment of the company as a director or KMP, then you are disqualified. Correct? Person who is in full-time employment or exceeds the ceiling number of audits as at the date of appointment or reappointment is disqualified. What are the number of audits he's not allowed to do?
20. In excess of 20.
Excess of 20.
In excess of 20.
Excluding dormant companies, maybe.
Small company.
Small company.
Correct. Excluding
dormant companies, small companies, and
one-person company, private companies with the paid-up capital of less than 100 crores. If it is exactly 100 crores, also not covered. Nenpitya?
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry. A person who has been convicted by a court of law for an offense involving fraud for a period of 10 years. A person whose subsidiary or any other form of subsidiary where you are providing impermissible services, then you cannot do audit of such company. 141 is extremely important. And by her to Marsid in Nimgella section. Get done at that point of time. Okay. 142. Remuneration of auditor. Who should fix the remuneration? Remuneration shall be fixed in general meeting. Board may fix the remuneration of auditor appointed by it. Remuneration shall include all the expenses. Remember, whoever appoints have to fix a remuneration, which means if it's a first auditor, board will fix a remuneration. Correct? Remuneration otherwise is fixed by in the general meeting by members of the company. It includes all the out-of-pocket expenses. But if I'm doing some new services, it's not included in remuneration. Andre, tax audit to statutory audit martidini. Tax audit fee is not included as remuneration here. It's only statutory audit fee plus out-of-pocket expenses. OP is out-of-pocket expenses, any expenses related to conducting that audit, traveling, lodging, all of that is included as part of my
remuneration.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, powers and duties of the auditor, 143. What is a power and duty? 15 subsections in 143. 1, right? Proprietary matters, 6 proprietary matters. Loans and advances have not been prejudicial to the company. They're secure, properly secure, and not prejudicial. Remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Transactions merely representing the books are not prejudicial to the interest of the company. Company not being an investment company or a banking company has not sold shares or securities at a price less than what they have purchased for. Loans and advances are not shown as deposits. Personal expenses are not charged to revenue account. If the shares are allotted for cash, cash is actually received. Otherwise, a proper disclosure has been made. This is 143.1 inquiry, proprietary matters that auditor has to inquire. Okay. Point 2 says you need to give an audit report to the members. If it is a qualification, you need to highlight that there's a qualification, correct, to the members. But all the audit reports are given to the members. Only in case of a government company, audit report is submitted to C&AG. C&AG can call for either a supplementary audit or test audit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Matters to be stated in the audit report. 143 subsection 3. Matters to be stated in the audit report. These are all the matters A to J. Sought and obtained all information and explanation which to the best of the knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of audit. Whether in his opinion, proper books of accounts as required by law have been kept by the company so far as it appears from his examination that proper returns adequate for the purpose of his audit have been received from branches not visited by him. Whether the report of the accounts of any branch office of the company audited under subsection A, how he dealt with that report in his report. Whether the balance sheet and profit and loss account are matching to the books of accounts of the company. Whether, in his opinion, financial statements are complied to accounting standards. The observations or comments of the auditor on the financial transactions, if it has any adverse effect on the functioning of the company. Example, going concern, foreseeable losses. What is the adverse effect which has on the functioning of the company? Whether any director is disqualified from being appointed as a director under subsection 2 of section 164. Is there a disqualification? Any qualification, reservation, or remarks relating to the maintenance of accounts and other matters connected therewith. Company has adequate internal financial controls with reference to financial statements. Such other matters as may be prescribed, such other matters as may be prescribed is what such other matters as may be prescribed is J. This is 143. 141 subsection 3, 143 subsection 1, 143 subsection 3, 139 subsection 2 are extremely important for exam.
Yes, ma'am.
That was on subsection 3. Subsection 4, if you have a negative or a qualification, you need to highlight that. Subsection 5, 6, 7 is government auditors. Whenever there is an audit report, government auditor, C&AG report by audit report. C&AG will call for a supplementary audit if there is a necessary. Basis that they will give the report to the company. So in case of a government company, audit report is given to C&AG. In case of a non-government company, audit report is submitted to members. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Next,
ma'am.
branch audit madidvi. Branch, every company's branch has to have an auditor. Next, every auditor shall comply with auditing standards. What are those auditing standards? Something which are issued by ICAI. Who will say what needs to be issued? NFRA will say. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Nimge Karu madidra Siddhartha?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one he did, 16 or 20?
16 is
16.
applicable for us, ma'am.
Okay, that is what they've told you, is it? That 16 is applicable?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then 13 madidvi. 12 is most important now, madidvi. Fraud reporting. Nenpidya. Within 60 days, everything has to be done. Within 2 days of identification of fraud, inform to board and audit committee. Within 45 days, board and audit committee has to come back with the reason of how they mitigated the fraud or what have they done. If they don't respond within 45 days, you have to inform to government within 60 days that there's no response. If they responded, including the response, you have to inform the central government that within 60 days. Overall, 60 days time irutte. 2, 45, 60. It's all inclusive number. 2 days and 1 helpine. Next 43 days, they'll have to come back. Next 15 days, I will have to come back. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That was something we discussed in subsection 12. Please. Okay, now subsection 13. No duty on contravention by reason of reporting under section 143 subsection 12 if it is done in good faith. And if someone is reporting the fraud, it doesn't mean they're breaking the confidentiality. It doesn't automatically mean that they are breaking the confidentiality, right? It's nothing to do with the confidentiality breach. That is what 143 subsection 12 says. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Applicable to 14. When the subsection 12 is also applicable to cost auditor. The whole provisions of this section is equally applicable to the cost auditor. If there's a punishment for contravention for 143.12, the punishment for contravention will go to 1 lakh to 25 lakhs. If somebody does not inform the central government fraud at the right time, the punishment can move to 1 lakh to 25 lakhs. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So we spoke about 143.3, 143.2, then 144. 144 impermissible services. All of these are called as impermissible services. If I'm giving the services, I cannot do audit. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And this was basically 144. Then we went to directly or indirectly is fine. Okay, audit committee applicability is fine. 145, 145.
Auditors to sign audit reports.
Auditor only has to sign the audit report, correct? Nobody else can sign the audit report. On behalf of the firm, he can sign, but he should sign the audit report. 146 say no. Auditor to
attend general meetings.
If auditor fails to attend, then the authorized representative, who is also qualified to be a chartered accountant, can attend. And the authorized representative or the proxy cannot be a non-CA, cannot be the one who is disqualified under 141 subsection 3. The one who is attending should also be qualified to be an auditor to represent him in the AGM. 147, punishment for contravention. Madhuri, correct? 4 times the remuneration, 8 times the remuneration, punishment for contravention. 148 is cost audit. There are 2 set of companies in Madhuri. Cost audit applicable for class 1 and for class 2. Correct? What is the limits for cost audit? Remember? 25 crores, 35 crores, 100 crores. The limits to be prescribed for cost audit. Per product, more than 25 crores idre audit ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Together more than 100 idre audit ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Depending on your regulated sector, unregulated sector, 25, 35, 100 crores was a prescribed limits for auditing the cost audit. 148 ಮಾಡಿದ್ನ ಇನ್ನ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಮಾಡ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ? I remember doing it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. That was all company audits chapter. Very important. Now to go back to your study material once and look at what is the most relevant and important things for you in the auditing chapter. Mathansali quickly to revise what is important. Risk assessment chapter is very important. Fraud is very important. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Audit is very important. Audit report is very important. These are all like, you'll have to be must and stood, and SCAs are very important. Company audit, some sections are very important. I've been giving it over the period of time. You'll have to revise all of those sections. Okay, if you've done with this much, I'll quickly now go to case study booklet. I'm going this way because it's a revision. Kutkond explain madak time illa namge. We just have to keep on revising it. I hope you agree.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the time for explanation is over. You'll have to be on top of everything. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿರ್ಬೇಕು. 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಟೈಮ್ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. As simple as that. You're wasting a minute, you're losing 1 mark. So ಇದೆಲ್ಲ MCQs actually class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಚೇತನ್, Vinay, all of them used to do MCQs. We've done quite a few MCQs. Yes or no? In the class
Yes,
we've
ma'am.
done.
Yes, ma'am. We have done.
But what we have to do is maybe some case studies ಮಾಡೋಣ. Case studies ಕೆಲವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು. Test your knowledge of the study material is very important. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದಾನೆ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದವ್ರ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಇದೆ. ಇದೆಯಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
They'll pick your exam questions from those test your knowledge and the case study. Every chapter towards the end has got case studies and the MCQs. We need to compulsorily go through all of those case studies and MCQs. All your questions will come from there. So with that, ಇಲ್ಲಿ case studies ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ towards the end ಇದೆಯಾ? Okay, ಇದು ನೋಡೋಣ. ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಆಯ್ತು. 2, 3. See, some points in auditing you should remember. Anytime when the question comes, alva, answer is in the question itself. You'll have to underline auditing words in the question. Other definition, explanation ಬರೀಬೇಕು. Then analyze, then conclude. Case study question are the facts of the case, provisions related to auditing. If it is a generic SCA, then SCA. If it's a company audit section, company audit section. Then analysis ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, analyze ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು conclusion ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. But most times in auditing, a direct questions or indirect questions, the question itself will have an answer. You will look at a question and you will have an answer. One exam paper madana will understand, but just okay, actually let's do one thing. Instead of picking this I think the best way for you to do is one exam question paper ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೀನಿ. It's easy for you also to look at how the questions gets asked and how do you answer. See, can we do it?
Yes.
One question paper, let's do it, okay, thoroughly. This question paper comprises 2 parts. Part 1, part 2. Part 1, MCQs, 30 marks irutte. 30 marks ಗೆ minimum 1000 MCQs ಓದಿದ್ರೆ 30 marks ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಬರೀ 10 ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 2 marks ಬರುತ್ತೆ 30 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. No, I don't want to do anything. Last minute ಎಲ್ಲ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ? I'm genius. You're not genius. None of us are genius in CA exam. There is a board outside church that Jesus never failed. A CA student said, ask Jesus to write CA exams. And that's a reality of a CA exam. Don't assume that you are genius, over intelligent. All of us have to assume that we have to put an effort, make the notes, write down. Are you getting me right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So MCQs of at least 1000 odila andre 30 marks baralla. I'm telling you. Okay. Now part 2 comprises of descriptive type of questions. Descriptive type ಅಂದ್ರೆ all answers ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇವ್ರದ್ದು ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಇದೆ. You have to read all of the story very clearly. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಿಬಾರ್ದು, ಪೆನ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆರ್ ಬ್ಲೂ, ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಅಲೌ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಬರೀ ಬ್ಲೂ ಅಲೌ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ವಾ.
Only black, ma'am.
Only
black is allowed, blue is not allowed. Very good. Yeah, so they'll give you 15 minutes reading time. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಗೀಚ್ಕೊಂಬಾರ್ದು. ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಗೀಚಿದ್ರೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. You're just supposed to read, you're not supposed to write on the question paper, right? It's important. They will and then they'll also, the couple of things which are rules for you. You cannot scribble on the ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ just scribbling on the desk could be very dangerous. Invigilation time ಅಲ್ಲಿ it could all be very dangerous. Your photo should match who you are. And 4th standard photo ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ they'll keep asking you. ಅದು ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Who are you ಅಂದ್ರೆ it's me only, you doesn't look like that. Then you have to explain, no sir, 4th standard ಮೂಗ್ ಹಿಂಗಿತ್ತು, ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಟ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು ಈಗ. So all of that, hair ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಉದ್ದ ಬೆಳೀತು, all that nonsense will come. But I'm serious. All ticket ಅಲ್ಲಿ, when you're taking an ID card, take something which is appropriate. All the small things matters. Disturb ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಟೈಮ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? So this is extremely few small things are very important. All of this you have to read very carefully. OMR sheet ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. MCQs is done out of OMR sheet. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಹೊರಟೋಯ್ತು. ಟಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. Correct? If it's an OMR sheet, you have to fill. You have to, you've done it in CPT. Now I'll tick the right answer at the tick ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ the computer will not identify your tick. It is only Nike shoe that can identify tick mark. Nike comes with tick mark. Nike brand is tick mark. ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. Look at this now. First question, state with the reason whether the following statements are correct or incorrect. ಈ ತರ question ಬರುತ್ತೆ, correct or incorrect ಅಂತ. What you should do, one best way to do it is write correct or incorrect first and explain below. The second best way to do it is explain and give one line bitputtu kelage, hence answer is correct. Either of the things are okay. First to correct ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು explain ಮಾಡಿ, or explain ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಒಂದು line bitputtu then write hence the answer is correct or hence the answer is incorrect. But explanation is mandatory. But ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ನೀವು one line ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. You say, let's say you say correct, leave one line, then write. The best way to write is you'll say answer to question number 1, double underline. Okay, one line bittu alli correct, one line bittu underline correct, one line bittu the answer is correct because the definition of a misstatement is this. SA 450 explains this. Misstatement can arise either on account of a fraud or a error. There are different types of errors and different types of fraud explained under 450. Right? Fraud is an intentional error. Misstatements could also arise on account of an intentional errors, which could be represented by fraudulent financial reporting and misappropriation of assets. Some answer you have to write. Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
That is for the correct or incorrect. Okay, so how do you need to write the answer? Question papers solve ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Minimum 3 question papers solve ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ನೀವು ಬರೀ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಲದು. ನೀವು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಓದಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ನ ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ಲಿ 3 hours ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬರೀರಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಈ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, just keep your answer sheet, ಬರೀರಿ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ when you write answer sheet, you will know how many pages you should write ಅಂತ. ನಿಮ್ಗೊಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಫುಲ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ನೀವು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ 1 2 3 4 5 lines in the print out, how many lines it will become when you write?
8 to 10 lines.
Depending on how big is your handwriting,
Yes,
how big is your font, how small you write, what is the gap you give, then you will understand. One answer sheet baradre nimge gottagutte, okay, nanna handwriting ge at least 40 pages nan baribeku anta, because I write so big. Okay? If it is small, at least 25 pages baribeku. Nimage gottagbekalla answer eshtu baribeku anta. That you will get to know once you look at the answer. See, this is a question paper, right? July 21 question paper. Naniga July 21 suggested answers ಕೊಟ್ಟೋಗೋಣ straightly. ಹಿಂದಿ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ
They haven't uploaded.
ಇನ್ನೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. January 21 ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಇದು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್. ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ನ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಬರದ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಷ್ಟು ನೀವು ಬರಿಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೇಜ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, ಹೌ ಮಚ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿಕಮ್. ಇದು 2 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ಗೆ. 2 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಹಾಫ್ ಪೇಜ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೀಡೆಡ್. ನೀವೇನ್ ಬರೀತೀರಾ, 2 ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಬರೀತೀರಾ. ಇನ್ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯು ವೋಂಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್. ಅದೇ ಹಂಗೆ ಬರೀಹದ್ ನಾವು. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. What is it because? You have to explain that because also before. So you have to practice. You have to write this. This in your notes will become half a sheet. Right? Andre 2 marks ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ half a sheet ಬರೀಬೇಕು. ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಈ ತರ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೋರೀಸ್ ಬರೀತೀವಿ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಕ್ರಿಸ್ಪ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? We don't write 3 hours movie. We write a story behind the movie. Story behind the movie ಹೆಂಗ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? Pages and pages and pages together ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. That somebody will make it a movie. So we're not writing a movie. We're writing a story. Hence you have to do a trailer also. This is important. This para is important. This line is important. Illi SAP Oracle is important. This one is important. Correct? Complex environment is important. Important keywords na highlight ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಪೆನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಅಲ್ಲೇನೋ ಹೇಳಿದಾರೆ ಶೆಟ್ಟಿ ಸರ್ ಕಲರ್ ಪೆನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ yellow highlighter. I'll use all yellow highlighters. All green highlighters you're not supposed to do. You're not even supposed to use pencil. Same pen that you're writing, you should just do a double underline. That means it should be below the line. ರೂಲ್ ಬುಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ, ರೂಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ರೂಲ್ ಬುಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಆ ಲೈನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕಾಣಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅದು ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಬಿಟ್ ಬಿಲೋ ದ ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಫ್ ಯೋರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್, ಕೆಲವರು ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಬರೀತೀವಿ, ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ 2 ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡೂ ಅಬೌವ್ ದ ಲೈನ್. ಬಟ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಲೈನ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ರೈಟ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಲೈನ್, ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ರೈಟ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್, ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಡೂ ಕರ್ಸಿವ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಐ ಡೂ ಆನ್ ದ ಲೈನ್, ಐ ಡೂ ಬಿಲೋ ದ ಲೈನ್, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ವಿಸಿಬಲ್. ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್?
Yes, ma'am.
So if it is good, you can also do a box. That's also more good. Some word you want to highlight, you can do a box. You can do a double underline. But combination ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಪೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ರಂಗೋಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ. ಟಿಕ್ ಟಿಕ್ ಟಿಕ್, that zigzag, ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿಕ್, ಫ್ಲವರ್, ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಬೇಡ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರೀ ಮನೇಲಿ ಹಬ್ಬ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ರಂಗೋಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಗ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಹಾಕ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಬಾರ್ಡರ್ಸ್. That borders we are not expecting you to do. Only the lines you're supposed to draw. Are you getting it? A lot of people do that. I've seen people doing like this zigzag, correct, flowers. Adella madbadu. Just a simple underline. And underline should be visible. In a page, 6 to 7 underlines are acceptable. Except 6 to 7 words, everything I'll underline. Examiner will be confused. So this is simple things but important. Nodi the ಕೆಲವರು answer sheet 25 ಸಲ underline ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ one page ಅಲ್ಲಿ. What to focus? You only have to underline most important things, key audit matters. Get it? For you, right? Key audit matter for you is in your judgment is most significant for an examiner to get his attention. That is what you have to underline. That word most significance, don't forget. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is how correct and incorrect answers have to be written. Important is essay references ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. Essay references, section references, we can actually give references of any other acts. References are very important. So for example, illondu essay 200 question, the second one ನೋಡಿ. The auditor is expected to reduce the audit risk to 0 and can therefore obtain absolute assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. Immediately no ಅಂತ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ, incorrect ಅಂತ ಬರದ್ವಿ. Very good. Explanation ಏನು? Explanation you cannot jump. Incorrect because auditor has to obtain reasonable assurance. That is jumping to the answer. You'll have to start. What is a start? Essay 200 provides guidance on overall objective of an auditor and achieving the audit in compliance with auditing standards. As per Essay 200, auditor has to obtain reasonable assurance on the financial statements. The objective of the audit is point number 1, to obtain a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement, to report on the financial statements in compliance with the standards in auditing, to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, correct? To enable an auditor to conclude that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Considering this in the mind, the whole concept of an audit is assurance. It is only a reasonable assurance and not absolute assurance. It is not arithmetical accuracy, but it is actually a true and fair view. So with this, auditor cannot reduce an audit risk to a 0. It can only be reduced to an acceptably low level. Hence, an audit risk is a risk that auditor would give inappropriate audit opinion. Inappropriateness is not incorrect. Inappropriateness is reasonableness. That's what you have to explain. Like keywords, 200 highlight ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, inappropriate highlight ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, opinion highlight ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. That's how you have to make an answer. See how they have done it? Let's look at ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. See, essay 200, what it says. The auditor is not expected to and cannot reduce the risk to zero and cannot therefore obtain absolute assurance that the financial statement are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. This is because there are inherent limitations of an audit. And then you also have to bring inherent limitations. If you any answer, but the answer should have some keywords like inherent limitations, inappropriateness, audit risk. Some answers you have to bring it and make it more clear. This is how correct and incorrect answers have to be made. Clear? First question yavattu correct and incorrect irta. Heng answer ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? We'll write correct or incorrect, leave one line, write a paragraph. Please practice. All of you should mandatorily practice a question paper to know. To score 60 plus, ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರಿಬೇಕು ನಾನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು ನಿಮಗೆ. ನಿಮ್ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಶೀಟ್ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೇಜಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ A4 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Like in my handwriting, I used to write 32 pages approximately. 32 pages in 1 hour. I scored 73. That you need to know that how much volume and content you should write. Correct? Okay. Explain the fundamental principles of professional ethics relevant to the auditor when conducting an audit of financial statements in accordance with Code of Ethics. 4 marks. Nodi eshtu bardidare 4 marks. They've only given so much, but do understand this is only suggestive answers. Correct? This is not answers. These are suggestive answers. Artha agtideya nimge? Na hinde hogi nodidre illi. What are they saying? This is suggested answers. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೀ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಷ್ಟು ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರಿಟಿ, ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷನಲ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೆನ್ಸ್, ಕಾನ್ಫಿಡೆನ್ಶಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷನಲ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್, ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ದಿಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ರೈಟ್ ಯು ಮೇ ನಾಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್. ಫಾರ್ 4 marks at least 1 page ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಬೇಕು.
Yes, ma'am.
That's another thing you need to keep in mind. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದಾರೋ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? This is direct question, basically. This is an example of a direct question. ಈಗ indirect question ನೋಡೋಣ. Question 2 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. C. Raj, an auditor, was removed by PQR Limited before the expiry of his term. ಯಾವ section ಇದು?
140 subsection 1.
140. Immediately ನಮಗೆ brain ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಬೇಕು. Facts of the case, auditor is removed. Provisions of the law. Chapter 10, Audit and Auditors, read with section 140, provides the provisions related to removal of an auditor. As per section 140, subsection 1, any removal requires central government approval and special resolution. An opportunity of being heard to be provided to the auditor. Correct? While removing, the special resolution means majority of the members have to agree. So you have to write all of this. Discuss the procedure to be taken to remove. This is what they're saying. What is the procedure to be taken? And under 144, special notice heng kodbeku anta keltidare. Special notice andre notice is given by the company to all the members. Correct? That notice will be circulated to all the members under 115. Mehul madirtara ninge. Chapter 7 alli the special notice provisions 115. Madidara?
Yes, ma'am.
Special notice before 14 days of the meeting, you have to give a special notice. If the notice is defamatory in language, tribunal will say, don't read out the notice. This notice is defamatory. Tribunal will say, just hold on. This notice doesn't look good. Doesn't sound good to me. Then I'll have to hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
So this you will have to remember. Right now, CA Raj, an auditor, was removed by PQR Limited before the expiry of his term. Discuss the procedure. So this is how the procedure is described. 144 ಅಲ್ಲಿ, what is the entire procedure? They're appointed. Rotation idre, it's fine. Rotation illa andre ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? See, receipt of a notice, resolution. You'll have to write all of this and conclusion ಬರಿಬೇಕು. Your conclusion ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು conclusion ಬರಿಬೇಕು. We have to say facts of the case. This is 144. This is what 144 says, and this is a conclusion. ಇದನ್ನ ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. We have to write and practice. Case studies ಎಲ್ಲ, I don't know, if you don't write, you won't score. Every day 2 case studies ಬರೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾನು before I was born, I told you. That many times I've told you. Correct? Every class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಇದನ್ನ. MCQs, case studies every day practice ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Every day 30 to 40 MCQs. Every day 2 case studies practice ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು ನಾವು. We cannot leave it. How to practice? Even now assuming 1 month the exam ಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ even today we have to practice too. ಈ question ಓದ್ತೀನಿ. I will just write down with seeing once completely. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಏನೇನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ. ವಿತೌಟ್ ಸೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಬರೀತೀನಿ. ವಿತೌಟ್ ಸೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಬರಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಮೈಂಡ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮೈಂಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಇಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ಡೇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಡಸಂಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಇಟ್? 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 10th day onwards, it will automatically start picking up the pace. A pace already ಬರಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇ ವಿತೌಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್. Right? You're representing India, which means you have to practice a lot. 2 lakh chartered accountants out of 130 million population. 130 crores population. There are 2 lakhs chartered accountants. Very, very determined approach should be there. Okay, this is how you do a question. This is a direct question. See, largely your auditing paper is made up of MCQs, 30 marks, true or false, correct or incorrect, some 20 marks, direct questions, some 20-25 marks, indirect questions are the remaining. See, this is very direct question. How internal financial control, explain how internal financial control and internal controls over financial reporting differ. ಇದು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ IFC ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ICOFER ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ. IFC ಅಂದ್ರೆ it covers everything. ICOFER ಅಂದ್ರೆ it only covers the matters related to financial reporting. What's the difference ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು? Internal financial control 134 subsection 5 ಅಲ್ಲಿ it includes everything: fraud reporting, operations, safeguarding of assets, procedures, compliance, everything. Controls over financial reporting ಅಂದ್ರೆ only matters related to trial balance, matters related to financial statement items is what I will look at in IFC. These questions, how do you answer? Exam questions ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ನೀವು? RTP ಎಲ್ಲ ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
ಓದ್ಬೇಕು. Okay, this is how the question paper. ಈ question paper ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ನಮಗೆ question papers all together? November. See, ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸಾಕು ನಾವು. 19, 20, 21. ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಬರೀಬೇಕು. ಆದ್ರೆ ನೀವು 2 question papers ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಓದಿ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
Question papers are important. ಈಗ RTP ಬರೋಣ. RTP ಬಂದಿದ್ಯಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ದು?
Yes, ma'am.
See, November 2021 RTP tells us what are all important things ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋಣ ಇದು. Okay, RTP. Academic update, legislative amendments, notifications. ಏನಿದು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 5, ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 9, ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 10 ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ? ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 5 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ಸಿ, ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವೆನ್ RTP ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ RTP only, right? I hope it. I don't know how many of you have seen. See, they've given some, these 3 are important ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Amendments ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Must and stood. ಇಲ್ಲಿ they've given amendment to page number 9.11 and not complete chapter. This is amendment ಆಗಿದೆ. They've given this amendment and the must and stood for us to go through these 3 chapters. The 5, 9, 10 are exam chapters. Very important ಅಂತ. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ whole chapter ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ frauds, different types of frauds. Must. So much is there for us to read. See, what do you mean by misappropriation of assets? Examples for misappropriation. Detection of fraud and error on duty of auditor. Case studies. They've just given the chapters. Ishtan RTP hing baralwala generally. They generally give you all the types of questions. Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರೋ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಕಾರೋ 2016 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm, 143 subsection 12 important ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. See, RTP ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ. ಫುಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 143 subsection 12 is important, they've given. ಕಾರು ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ? 2016 ಕಾರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So you are safe, correct? 2020 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ it would have been a problem. Okay, summary 240 ಎಲ್ಲ full ಇದೆಲ್ಲ test your knowledge. They've just given the chapter only. Okay, this is not the way RTP looks, but I think they've just given something. Let's see. Company audit ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನ್ changes? ಏನು changes ಇಲ್ಲ. Company audit same ಇದೆ. No amendments have happened. It's the same thing. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ chapter same, just amendments ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಅದನ್ನಷ್ಟೇ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು RTP ಅಲ್ಲಿ. This is all fine. This is all the chapter. They've just taken a study material and pasted here. This is not the way the RTP generally comes. I'm surprised. This is not a proper RTP. RTP full revision questions ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. I don't know how this time they've given like this. They've just given these 3 chapters are very important. 16. Okay.
From page 156 they have given.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇರೋದೇ 145 page ಮಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Okay. Okay, you're saying here
117.
Okay, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಬಿಡಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು ಸೇಮ್ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ as she said. 117 ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ they've given a proper RTP it seems.
Yes ma'am.
These are all points. I think they've just repeated the chapters as it is. Maybe the one who doesn't have a new material, they've just given all the chapters, important chapters. And there are 3 chapters important and gottaitu namge. Correct? Fraud, company audit, innondu yadu?
Audit and auditors.
Company audit andrene adu.
Items of FS.
Items of financial statements. These are 3 important chapters according to them this time. Illinda kottidara avaru alva. See, they've given. This is basically the question and answers to practice. Illinda 170 inda 145 thoroughly ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. RTP ಇಂದ generally 10 marks as it is pick ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ exam ಅಲ್ಲಿ. RTP, MTP, question paper, study material, test your knowledge. These are all practical aspects of theory. Correct? ನೀವು ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಓದಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಓದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರು ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇದು 4 ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. If you're not able to read study material at the last minute now, but if you have read all the CAPS material plus read RTP questions, MTPs, you've solved, you've done all the case study booklet, and you've solved all the questions and suggested answers, you're good to go. Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
This is like BCom alli namge ottidvalla previous year question papers ottidvi, correct? These are all previous year question papers. You need to read it. So, ಈಗ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಿನಾರಿಯೋಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಲಾ. ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಒಂದು ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ 5-6 ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಜನರಲ್ MCQs ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ವಿಚ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದಿಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, they'll give one case like this. Okay, let's look at it. They'll give a case like this. Among the promoters set up a public company, so and so and so. This is what it is. This is all it is. You need to answer this questions reading this case study. All the answers are basis this case study. Your 5 questions you'll have to read basis this case study. Okay, this is important. I hope you're understanding. I'm not able to solve because it's not a class to solve. I'm just trying to revise and tell you what is important, what needs to be looked at. Fair point. I cannot solve everything in the revision class. I hope you agree. But when you're just going through, sorry?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when you're going through, I'm leaving my number to you. Okay. If you have any doubts, please reach out to me. I've just again given your number. Last time I kottidde nanu. Yaru doubt kelala nanna. Niಮಗೆ doubts bandre, do please reach out. Clear? Any doubts you're getting in any chapter, not understanding anything, feel free to just WhatsApp me. And ma'am, I want to talk to you. I'll tell you the time that we can speak and you can all clarify your doubts. But please reach out without hesitation for any doubts. But we ಓದಬೇಕು actually to preparation ತುಂಬಾ robust ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. ಈಗ at least 12 hours ನೀವು reading time ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು, this is my exam time. I cannot afford to lose time. 5 minutes are very important in me. Okay, so this is how it is. Then MCQs kottidare. We'll have to just look at all these MCQs. MCQs are very important, and descriptive questions kottidare. Practice ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. True or false questions, right? All of these are true or false, correct or incorrect. Chapter wise important points kottidare. See, RTP ಇದು 30 pages ಇರುತ್ತೆ, but 10 to 15 marks RTP ಇಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ exam ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Every chapter ಅಲ್ಲಿ what is important they've given. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And they've just given the suggested answers also, how to solve it. Idana solve ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು ನೀವು. Any CS student who's preparing for the exam, this is Bible. Actually, study material is Bible. ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ವೆಂಚರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ಏನು ಓದಿದಿರೋ ಅದನ್ನ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಆಥರ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಆಥರ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಈಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಮುಂಚೆ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಟು ಡು ಬಂಜಿ ಜಂಪಿಂಗ್. ಬೇಡ, ಬಂಜಿ ಜಂಪಿಂಗ್ ಈಗ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಬಂಜಿ ಜಂಪಿಂಗ್ ಬೇಡ. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು go slow. Whatever you have read, you can read, but must for you to look at all the examination questions, academic updates, amendments. ಇದು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ 2021 ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ 5, 9, 10 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋದು ಅವರು. 5, 9, 10 ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಸೊ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸಾಕು ನೀವು. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ರೆಡ್ ಫಾಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದಾರಲ್ಲ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಲುಕ್ ಎಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ 3 ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ 10 to 12 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟರಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
Yes, ma'am.
ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅದನ್ನ. 5, 9, 10, right? These amendments we'll have to look at it once. And then RTP we have to read once. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ 117 ಇಂದ ಓದಿ. ಫುಲ್ RTP ಬೇಡ, ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಕ್ಲಿಯರಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
And then RTP ಮಾಡಿ, MTP ಮಾಡಿ, ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ 2ನ ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. 2 ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರೈಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್. ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಬರೀರಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಓಕೆ, ಬಟ್ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ರೈಟ್. Right? Then I think that's all. Reference to quick revision, we already did it. So even if you're not able to get time to read study material, I request you to read all of the other things, which could be 200 pages, but all your exam content will come from here. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I don't want to take too much time. This revision ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ರಿವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ನಾಳೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ನಂದು my role is very limited. Your role is very big. My role is to show you. Okay, now there's a big tunnel. Can you see the tunnel?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you will see. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. How to cross the tunnel? What are the hurdles in the tunnel? What in all can come your way? Have you got a proper torch on your head? Right? Are you carrying some stick? Because something may come. You might have to hit. It will be too dark. Are you prepared? Do you have some food or water? Okay, things like that I can tell you. But you have to believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Crossing the tunnel is your duty only. I cannot do much about it. I'm not coming along with you to cross the tunnel because next pass should not be there. We cannot come along with you until the exam. So that's how the teacher's role is. My role is very limited, right? But your role is very big in the exam. You have to solve everything, right? Barita irಬೇಕು ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರೀತೀರಾ ಅಷ್ಟು marks ಬರುತ್ತೆ. The more you practice case studies, the more you get marks. And I'm available. Anytime you ask me doubt, you say, I want to know this, I have a doubt, I'm not getting confidence, you please feel free to talk to me. But you need to start practicing all the things here. Academic updates, MCQs, RTPs, MTPs, question papers. Idella madidre nobody can fail you.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody on this earth can even think of failing you. Any student who is getting a rank would have done all of this. Okay, so I'll now leave it with that. Please read very well. Please take some good time for writing these. Study material ಈಗ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ವೆಂಚರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ಹೊಸದಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಓದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಏನು ಓದಿದ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Whatever you read, then start doing exam oriented preparation. ಎಲ್ಲ MCQs, test your knowledge, questions, ಅದನ್ನಷ್ಟೇ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಈಗ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 4 days ನೀವು ಓದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಥಿಯರಿ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬೇಡಿ, ಏನು ತಲೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಡೂ MTP, RTP, questions, correct, case studies, booklet, only that you do. Now don't do a revised reading. How many ever times you do revision, unless it's like driving, right? You're reading multiple times is you're learning driving. Learning driving ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರೈವರ್ ಕೂತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. They also have everything, accelerator, controller, everything. They're controlling the car. When you are just on your own car, not on the driver's car, driving school car, you realize what it means?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You just don't have anybody to control. That is what all these exam questions are. It helps you to drive your own car. Okay?
Ma'am, a small
Yes,
question. Ma'am, in recent RTP, you showed a question where you asked removal of auditor under 141. They have also mentioned 144 where we have to give provision
140 140 subsection 1 is removal. Central government
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
special
ma'am.
resolution.
In this
Procedure
case,
is 140 subsection 4.
Yes, ma'am. In this case, we have to give reference to both sections or only one which is more
You have
important,
to
like
give reference to
144?
both sections. You should give reference to 3. 140 provides removal resignation. That's a point number 1. 141, any removal requires special resolution, etc. If you're removing a retiring auditor, and then retiring auditor remove ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ, this is a procedure to be followed. Special notice to be given. Right? Notice has to be given to all the members. So you'll have to give all the 3 sections. I agree, suggest answers are very 144 ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. But no harm if you write 2 sections that you know already.
And ma'am, I have seen few examples in text where they give like clause P, subsection 4, section 140 or something like that, and then they start the answer. We should go by that format, or it's
No, not really. That it's
else
okay.
we can write 140 subsection 4 and A, like as usual we write.
140 section 4 is okay, because if you don't remember subsections and clauses, don't bother. If you don't remember subsection, also don't bother. If you remember section, you write section as per the provisions of this section. If you don't even remember a section, write a chapter. Say chapter 10.
Ma'am,
if you don't even remember a chapter, write
is
at
it
least
fine
the
we write
provisions.
chapter and sections all together and then we go with according to the provisions all?
Sorry, ask again.
Like if we know chapter provision all perfectly, then we can go like that, or like if we know all provisions what related
You should,
only to
yes, you should go like that. First 2 lines in your answer is, this particular provision is provided in chapter 10 of Companies Act 2013, read with section 140, removal and resignation of auditors by giving special notice, read with Companies Account and Auditors Rules 2014. That's the first point, right? Second point, 1 line below. As per section 140, subsection 1, any removal requires special resolution and central government approval. Third, the procedure for the removal under 144 is as below, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Hence, the conclusion, in the given case, companies should follow the provisions of section 140 for removing the auditor.
And ma'am, this is last one. Like, for example, they give any provision related to the removal of auditor, and do we have to write 143, 141, 140 subsection 3 completely, or we have to write only that specific clause like A or
Marks
B or C?
ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು. Okay, marks ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. 4 marks ಇದೆ ನಮಗೆ. 4 marks ಇದ್ದಾಗ we cannot write everything. We'll only have to write what is asked. But if the marks, let's say, has become 8 marks for whatever the reason, then I have to write everything. So for a 4 mark, what is the rule of a theory paper is 1 mark is equal to 1 link. 1 mark ke 1 link kodbeku. ಈ 140 subsection 4 ಅಲ್ಲಿ already 4 links ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ, 4 points ಬರ್ತಿದೆ. You don't need to find another point. Okay? So every 1 mark should have 1 link. Andre every question can have link to SCAs. 1 section or 2 sections of Companies Act maximum ashte. Iva 141 subsection 3 question kelidare anko. You don't have to write 141 subsection 3 A to I completely, not needed. What you are supposed to write is what is asked. Ashte adanashte focus ಮಾಡಿ, adanashte explain ಮಾಡಿ conclude ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
Yes, ma'am.
Ask me. Okay. Any other questions? Are you clear, Vikas, now?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, certain paragraphs in pronouncements books, which you told that you will mark.
Important paragraphs in the pronouncement book. Hold on, quickly. 2, 3, 4 important paragraphs ashtema. Let's go to idya pronouncement book ready idya ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ? Actually, I don't expect you to read too much. ನಾನು essay notes ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡು MCQs, RTPs ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. But I still give you only few paragraphs that is relevant. Okay, not too many. Too many ಬೇಡ ನಮಗೆ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷನಲ್ ಸ್ಕೆಪ್ಟಿಸಿಸಮ್ 200 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ application guidance number 80, A18, professional skepticism important, 200 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. A18, make it tumba, I mean, if you do too much, we can do too much, but that's all. Okay. A32 is important, audit risk. A32, 200 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. A32 is important. A45, very important. Inherent limitation questions ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ inherent limitation questions. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? A45 is important. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಏನಿದೆನಾ 220 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ 210 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾರಿ 210 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 7 is important. Limitations on the scope of audit ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. 13 is very important. Para 13 is very important. Recurring audits ಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, recurring audit, non-recurring audit. Recurring audit ಇದ್ರೆ we don't have to sign the LOE every year unless there's a change in the conditions ಅಂತ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು conditions ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. Non-recurring ಇದ್ರೆ we need to change every year ಅಂತ. That is a repetitive exam question. Para 30 correct, read with the application guidance 27. ಇದು important. Para 13 read with application guidance 27. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ questions ಇದೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ. That is 210. ಅಲ್ಲಿ 220 ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ರಿಲೆವೆಂಟ್ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 9 and 10 is important. 9 and 10 ethical requirements. Difference of opinion, para 22. If auditor has a difference of opinion, firm policies will prevail ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ, ನೆನಪಿದ್ಯಾ? Para 22 is important. That's about 220. 230 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಓನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದಿದೆ, ಅದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟೇಶನ್, ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ದ ಓನರ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಡಾಕ್ಯುಮೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಅಂತ ಇದು A25 ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. 230 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ auditor is the owner of his documents. He can only share the extracts basis his discretion ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, this is ownership of audit documentation. This is important in 230. 240 ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ critical standard actually. 240 ಇವಾಗ they have also said chapter 5 is important ಅಂತ, correct? Chapter assuming that it becomes important actually. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್, ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ರಾಡ್ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಡ, ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಯ್ತು ನಿಮ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್. ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 3 types of fraud risk factors ಇದೆ. ಇನ್ಸೆಂಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ಸ್, ಆಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಾಷನಲೈಸೇಷನ್, ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟೀಸ್. ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ನ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 5 ಅಲ್ಲಿ 2 types of fraud: fraudulent financial reporting, misappropriation of assets. ಅಲ್ಲಿ 3 points ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದ: ಇನ್ಸೆಂಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ಸ್, ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟೀಸ್, ಆಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಾಷನಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ಇದು ನೆನಪಿಲ್ವಾ? ಹೇಳಿದ್ನ ಇಲ್ವಾ ನಾನು ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್? ಅಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಇದು ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೊಂದು 5 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸಾಕು, ಫುಲ್ ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್ ಬೇಡ. ಅನೆಕ್ಷರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ. ಸಿ ಆಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಾಷನಲೈಸೇಷನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫ್ರಾಡ್ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು 3 to 5 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಓದಿ ಸಾಕು, ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ 240. 250 ಇದೆಯಾ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಲಾಸ್, ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಿ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ನ 250 ಎಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ವಾ? ಸರಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಆಡಿಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 18, 19 is important. 18 and 19 is important. 60, 65 ನಮಗ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? 99 ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ? 260, 265 ನಮಗ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ? 99 is very important. ನಮ್ಗೆ ರಿಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ 99 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. 99 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು? 99 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 13 is important. Para 13 in 99 is important. Then para 17 is important. ಇದು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್ 4 ಜನ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ one person will say I'm agreeing, 3 persons will say I'm not agreeing. 2 different opinions ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Correct? Majority rule ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ ನಾವು. Whoever does not agree will give a separate report ಅಂತ.
Yes, ma'am.
That is important. Para 17 ಇದು 200 series ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
300 series ಅಲ್ಲಿ 300 series ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಬೇಡ, ಹೆವಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ. ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 2 ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆಡಿಟ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜಿ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಪಾಯಿಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್, ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್, ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಯು ಟು ರೀಡ್ 300 ಎನಿ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ಸ್. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್?
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
315 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ಸ್, ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್, ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಈ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. 12, 13, 14 ಈ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ಯಾರಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅದು, ಅಂಟಿಲ್ 24 ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು. ಮತ್ತೆ 111 ಇದೆ, ಅಸರ್ಷನ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, A111 ಅಸರ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ ಇದೆ. A111 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. A111 ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ 111 ಗೋವಿಂದ. Okay, this Namadari section is important. Clear? Assertions fully. 330 ಇಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? 330 ಇದೆಯಾ ನಮ್ಗೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ, 330 ಇಲ್ಲ, 450 ಇಲ್ಲ, 402 ಇಲ್ಲ, 320 ಇದೆ. 320 ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್. ಓಕೆ, 320 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಏನು ಓದ್ಕೊಬೇಕು? 10 ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 10 ಇಸ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. A1 very important. A1 very, very important. Materiality in audit risk has inverse relationship. Higher the materiality, lesser the materiality threshold limit. Lesser the materiality threshold limit, lesser the tolerance error. Lesser the tolerance error, higher the confidence limit. Higher the sample risk. Higher the sample size. Higher the sample size, lower the sample risk. Lower the sample risk, lower the audit risk. Materiality audit risk has inverse relationship. And a diagram ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೋ when you were small kids. Remember? Correct?
Yes,
we had done this long ago. We had done. A2 is important. A2 application guidance 2 ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. A12 very important. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ? Performance materiality definition ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. Materiality which is below the normal materiality, that uncorrected, undetected misstatement as a whole does not exceed the materiality. Performance materiality can be set either at account balance or class of transaction level. That is very important. A12 read with para 9. Para 9 is important. Para 9 and A12 is important. Materiality chapter. ಇಷ್ಟೇ ನಮಗೆ 300 ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದು. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ?
Yes, ma'am.
500 series. 500 is super important. Correct? You know this, audit evidence. Audit evidence, ಇದು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ A1 ಓದಿ. A1 ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ 1, ಸಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಅಪ್ರಾಪ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಎವಿಡೆನ್ಸ್. A7 ಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಎವಿಡೆನ್ಸ್, ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್. A7 ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. A10 ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಸೆಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್, ಫರ್ದರ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್, ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್, ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್. A10. A10 ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. A10 ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇದಿದೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಷನ್, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಇದನ್ನು ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ. ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಷನ್, ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮೇಶನ್, ರೀಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್, ರೀಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್, ಅನಾಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್, ಇನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ. ಇದೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. ಕ್ಲಿಯರಾ?
Yes, ma'am.
ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಇಷ್ಟು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು 500 ಅಲ್ಲಿ. 501 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬೇಡ, ಅದೊಂದು ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸಮ್ಮರಿ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ವೆಂಟರಿ, ಲಿಟಿಗೇಷನ್, ಕ್ಲೇಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸೆಗ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ FAQs ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮ್ಮರಿ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಅಷ್ಟು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. 501 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಕವರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸಮ್ಮರಿ ಚಾರ್ಟ್. ಆರ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
505 ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ಸ್. ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. Then ಇದೊಂದು negative confirmation para 15 ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, important. Negative confirmation para 15 is important. ಇದು ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. A8 ಅದು ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೆಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಟು ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಅಂತ ರೆಫ್ಯೂಸಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ. A8 ಇಸ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಓಕೆ, 510 ನಾ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ನ್ಯೂ ಎಂಗೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಸ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ?
Yes, ma'am.
That diagram is enough. 520 ಅನಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಏನು ಬೇಡ, ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ವಾಪಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಓದೋದ್ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. 513 ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಸ್ಯಾಂಪ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದಿದೀವಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಯಾಂಪ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕವರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ರಿಪಿಟಿಷನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? 540 ನಮಗ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. 550 ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಡ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಲಿ, ನಾಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಡ್. 550 ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟೆಲ್ ಯು ಒನ್ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಇದು ವಿಚ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಒನ್ A37 ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. A37 ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ 37 ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ. 560 ಸಬ್ಸಿಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಇವೆಂಟ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಇವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಾ? ನಮ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಸಾಕಲ್ಲಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನಮ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಗುಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಮೋರ್ ದೆನ್ ಎನಫ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. 570 ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಲುಕ್ ಎಟ್, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ದಿಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾ 16 onwards, para 16 to 26 ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. 16 to 26 important. ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಬೇಡ. 16 to 26 para you can read. 570 580 ರಿಟನ್ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಅದು ಸಾಕು. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಟೂ ಮಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯು ಟು ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಡೂ ಇಟ್. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? ದಿಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಲುಕ್ ಎಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಈಗ 700 ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 700 ನಾವು ಆಡಿಟ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ಇದೇನು ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಬೇಡ. ಆಡಿಟ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, 11th ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್, ಮಾಡಿಫೈಡ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್, ಅನ್ಮಾಡಿಫೈಡ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್, ಎಂಫಸಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್, ಅದರ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್, ಕೀ ಆಡಿಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್, ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್, ಆಡಿಟ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್, ಸಿಗ್ನೇಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಆಡಿಟ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ದಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ದೆನ್ ಎನಫ್. ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ರಿಯಲಿ ಗೋ ಥ್ರೂ ಎಸ್ಸೇಸ್. ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಓದ್ಬೋದು ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ಲಿ, ಬಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಲುಕ್ ಎಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ಇಫ್ ಯು ರೀಡ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಇಟ್. But how much you can read, it's already given in the study material. Don't duplicate here. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
This is all. Any other things you have in your mind? Any other things? Any other questions? No questions? Okay. If no questions, don't waste any time. Do your 150%. Give your best, right? As much as possible, don't waste any time. Time siktagella enadru ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. Correct? Just try to revise, remember, MCQ, bariyodu. Ensure you give your best, right? Don't ask your friends how much they are reading, how much you are reading. Just read how much you can read. Sure, you will all do very well. You will have very good exams, right? Give the best out of it. Be very serious about it. Be extremely serious about your exam. 10th standard alli seriousness ittalla, adu as a kid we had. Imagine now the seriousness we have to have is as an adult. Unfortunately, adult seriousness is less than a kid seriousness. That shouldn't happen with us. Okay, all the best to you. God bless you. Do well. Whenever you have questions, you come back to me. Practice maximum possible questions. ಥಿಯರಿ ಓದೋದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಈಗ. ಆದಷ್ಟು ಥಿಯರಿ ಬೇಡ, ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೊರಟೋಗಿ ಈಗ. ಆದಷ್ಟು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ MTP, RTP ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. MCQ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಯೋರ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್, ಕೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಈಗ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 1 ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ 1 month ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್. Now you only have to visit in 1 month. Bye. Do well. All the best to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Read very well. Reach out whenever you need any help. Okay, don't waste time. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
You can all go now. I'm waiting for you to leave. Exam ಇದೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ, ನನಗೆ
Ma'am,
ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ.
In group they have told Shetty sir will be coming soon.
What time?
I think
After the session, ma'am.
ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗಿದೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು?
no class, ma'am.
You will all stay now.
Yes, ma'am. They have informed
They
us.
messaged us to stay after the class.
Okay, then you just message them that we just finished the revision. We're waiting anta. So then it shouldn't end alone. And actually, I'll just leave the meeting. Okay. I'll assign
Yes,
it to Chetan. Ning assign madla.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I just messaged it to sir now, ma'am. The class got over now.
Done. So I'm just assigning it to you. You guys can wait. Do very well. Do reach out whenever you have any questions. Okay, I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.